We have plenty of time to get through. I think we have plenty of time to get through these items, but we want to start out with our security incident and work through that. We do have final acceptance that's coming up. We always like to keep PSC as well as JPA informed of that. We do have our standard risks. And then we have made great progress, I think, on our report status, and there's really sort of a path forward. It's a fairly long presentation, but I really think it's worthwhile to go through the details of what the team has gathered, sort of the different experiences that we're having from where our counties come from and what the plan forward is. So we're going to spend some time. It's going to probably be more than 15 minutes on that, but I think it's time well spent. Then we have our standard release and policy communications update. You'll notice that the continuous coverage unwinding is not on as a sub bullet, and I think that's good. I think things are really going well. Lisa will give some updates. That includes the continuous coverage items, but we don't have a specific update on that today. Then we'll round out with Benefits Cal, contact center updates, some great progress on central print, return mail, upcoming road shows that you guys hopefully have on your calendars. And then we have our updates from our state partners in our region. So Cindy, I think we have plenty of time to be able to get through the agenda, but I think there's some pretty meaty topics.
Great, thank you for that. So this is now the opportunity, public opportunity to speak on items that are not on the agenda. Public comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, except that a speaker using a translator shall be allowed up to 6 minutes. The public may also speak on any item on the agenda by waiting until that item is read and then requesting recognition from the co-chair to speak. All lines will be muted when the meeting begins, and to unmute, if you're connected via computer, click the microphone icon. When connected via telephone, press *6. Any public comment this morning?
I would like to make public comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello. My name is Anna Evangelista. I am with the San Diego Hunger Coalition. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I just want to say, we appreciate the efforts of the project steering committee to better the experience of Benefits Cal. I wanted to share an issue with the website that has been preventing clients from having the best experience possible. As you know, there are several optional features that counties can choose to enable, such as the click to chat, a two-way messaging, and call me back feature. However, even if an applicant is logged into an account that is located in a county that has chosen to disable these features, the website will still show them as available options in the Help Center. When clients click on these options, they have to go through finding their county, only to find out that it is unavailable in their location, and they'll have to go elsewhere to get connected with help. This has actually become a major point of confusion and frustration for a lot of clients that we've been working with, as they click on these options, hopeful that they'll be connected with support for their case, only to find out that it is actually unavailable for their location. We want to make sure that clients have a positive experience when they go through the website. So we do recommend formatting the website to reflect the actual features available in their county from the get-go to prevent this confusion. Thank you so much for the opportunity to raise this issue, and I look forward to hearing more about what will be done to resolve this barrier.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, seeing none and no hands are raised, we will move next to the action items for the minutes from the last meeting in February.
Great, thanks, Cindy. I think most of our action items are on the agenda. I think action item number 1 for Dawn is going to be covered during the return mail agenda item later on. So, and I believe we'll be able to close this one out. Item 2, Laura, you have this action item. You want to give a quick update?
Yeah, we are still in the process of looking to get that meeting scheduled to go over those contact center and IVR features and flows.
Very good. Thanks, Laura. And we do have an update on some of the bot improvement functionality in this deck today. And then Laura will be reaching out and getting that on calendar. I think calendars have been tough lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have to do an April update.
Yep. And then item 4, contact center and team schedule. I think that's the same one as well. So we will make sure that that's for an April update. All right. So PSC members, these are open for questions, comments, or to move approval.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Sandra.
Elaine, I second.
Thank you, Elaine. Appreciate that. Clarissa, do you approve?
I approve.
Thank you so much. Eduardo?
I approve.
Thank you. Rachel?
I approve.
Thank you. Cecilia?
I approve.
All right. And Cindy?
I approve.
Great. Alberto? Albert? If Albert's out there, we didn't hear him. All right. LaShonda?
Approve.
Olga?
Approve.
Got a little echo in the room here.
Albert says approved. We'll chat.
All right, I got your approved in chat, Albert.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Yes, thank you so much.
Approved. Sorry.
Very good. All right, Cindy, that brings us to our first action item. I guess we have to ask for public comment on the minutes though. So.
Any public comment? Okay, I don't see any hands raised, and so that will move us to the first informational item, Benefits Cal user account security incident.
Thank you, Cindy. This is Laura Chavez. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off, and Rachel Frey is going to be tag teaming with me this morning. I want to give a little brief background on this item from last month for those of you who may not have been a part of our meeting last month where we talked about the security incident and may not have been part of our daily and now twice a week meetings in the evenings with our county points of contact and other folks. But back in February, our technical teams discovered a bad actor who was unfortunately utilizing stolen passwords from other third-party sites or purchased through the dark web, or one of many ways to, unfortunately today, obtain people's credentials that they utilize on other websites, and attempted to then try to reuse those on Benefits Cal. Unfortunately, there were some individuals within our Benefits Cal website, some of our customers who unfortunately did use and reuse a password on another site that was compromised, and then used that password on Benefits Cal. And unfortunately, this nefarious party was able to take advantage of some of those customers by logging into their account. As we've fast forward over the last several weeks, partnering with your county folks, as well as a lot of great feedback from our advocate partners, we wanted to report out that we completed the 180-day look back. We started to do a look back of 90 days, then we went back 6 months. And in an abundance of caution, we just wanted to roll back a full year to really look for any further activity that this nefarious party may have begun perpetrating throughout 2023, so that we could take appropriate security measures with regards to those accounts. So those accounts that were identified as being compromised have been deactivated. Those customers have been notified via email to contact their local county office in order to validate their identity, and then being transferred over to our Benefits Cal technical help desk for reactivation of their account and setting up multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication has really been the most important security remediation that we've put into place back on February 15th. That is really ensuring that parties without authorization are not able to access customers' accounts without them receiving their email notification code, one-time passcode, to be able to authorize that access. We're happy to report as of this week, hot off the press, we are completed with our 360-day look back. We've added a couple hundred additional accounts that we did identify, but certainly not to the level or the quantity that we were seeing earlier this year. So we've completed our forensic analysis, and we are in the process of providing the last case listing to your county folks, identifying any cases where an active EBT card may have existed in order for precautions to be taken to cancel and reissue. So as we wind down and wrap up this forensic analysis and have completed inactivating compromised accounts, we now have a greater focus on moving forward with some additional security precautions on our Benefits Cal website, specifically related to case linking. Could we go to the next screen? I'm going to go ahead and pass this on over to Rachel to describe some of the items that we've already put in place and to provide an update on our case linking feature and additional security provisions that we're deploying there. Rachel?
Thanks, Laura. So we have been doing a number of remediation efforts to enhance our overall protections within Benefits Cal, and I wanted to walk through what we've done and what we have that's coming up. We had a number of protections, let's say on the outside perimeter, which we refer to as our firewall, but we've added some additional recommended and suggested protections in the firewall to prevent some of that external traffic from even getting access to the site to begin with. We have also, as of the time in mid-February when Benefits Cal came back up again, we enabled the MFA feature to make it required for all users. Previously, it was an option. So unfortunately, very few individuals exercised the option to use the enhanced security feature that was available as an option on their customer account. But it is now a requirement for anyone that is logging into Benefits Cal to be able to authenticate through multiple factors. And then the last that Laura had mentioned was around case linking. We had explored what information was accessible before someone linked a case, after they linked a case, and based off of that assessment, took additional measures to protect customers' information once they get access to their case info. And that was in the form of disabling any new request to link a case to a customer account. And that was executed also in February. Now, it was temporary. The intent was for this not to be a permanent effort because we do want to make sure that customers are able to complete their activities that they need to do, whether it's online renewals or online recertifications or viewing their EBT balance. So we have been working on a plan that is currently targeted for an implementation date for our scheduled release in April, which is the 25th of April. That would re-enable MFA, or rather re-enable case linking, but require multi-factor authentication in order to link the case. And the intention of that really is to make sure that the person who is associated as the primary applicant on that particular case is confirmed as the individual to be able to view case-related details. And then we are also planning additional remediations as well. We're looking at this holistically around the entire account management process. So there are additional items that the team is exploring also, including looking at alternative authentication mechanisms that could be made available to users. If we go to the next slide, I believe the next one, Laura, is on communication, so I'll roll with this one too. As Laura had mentioned, we had been hosting a briefing for the counties on a daily basis up until 2 weeks ago, where we moved to an every other week, or not an every other week, an every other day, so twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays for county briefings. Those are currently scheduled to conclude next week. We are going to explore if there is a need to do them further, but based off of the current position is they would conclude next week on Thursday. In addition to the updates that we've been providing to the counties, we wanted to make sure that there's information available that the counties could share, that our advocate community could share, our community-based organizations could share, that was around what was the impetus behind temporarily disabling the case linking, and what individuals could do in the interim to be able to still access services. And so we did make available a flyer around case linking. We also made available a flyer around that counties could end up posting on their particular website or hand out in their lobbies. And we made it available in all threshold languages as well. Just recently, we completed, with review from all of our stakeholder communities, a set of social media posts that the counties are able to make available also. It was available in English. We have translated those also into the threshold languages. And then this past Monday, we conducted a webinar for the CBOs to answer any questions and just help them navigate through this period of time when case linking is temporarily disabled, followed by 2 county webinars scheduled next week on the 25th and the 26th, with the intention of the county getting information to understand how to help customers navigate this, this time frame when we have this temporary disabled case linking effort. Okay, Laura, I believe that is it for our slides, and I'll turn it back over to Cindy.
Thank you. Any comment from the PSC members? I just wanted to say really quickly, I really appreciated all the quick responses and the meetings held, the 4 o'clock meetings held, and all of the communications going out. I think through a difficult situation, all that has helped by the quick communications, and including the counties in order to understand, you know, what's happened. So I did want to recognize that and thank you for that. And so I don't see any other PSC members. So any comments from the public?
Hi, Cindy.
Yes.
Thanks, Cindy. This is Jennifer Tracy from the Advocates Group and the California Association of Food Banks. First, I want to acknowledge the exceptional work of the Benefits Cal and CalSAWS teams in identifying the security issue, securing client information, and keeping the advocate co-leads informed. We really appreciate being contacted right away with an overview and updates, the opportunity to collaboratively identify where there were places to make sure we could continue to protect client data. we know that the current situation has created a lot of barriers for people using Benefits Cal. Our assisters are working really hard to help try to keep people enrolled as they go through like a renewal process. But we do understand that these necessary steps are being taken to protect client information and prevent any other critical issues from happening or EBT dollars from being stolen. So big thank you from advocates, assisters, and the public for all of the work being done to secure that data and set up the website to be more secure moving forward. One thing that we did notice, however, is that the communication to clients about these changes did not keep pace with client needs. Recognizing that in the urgent days following this issue, the focus was on protecting data and access to the website. But from our perspective, the communication to clients was not part of the initial priorities. And by not providing clear information, making adjustments to the website, clients were left without information. They flooded the counties with requests for support, many of which could have been avoided. For example, messages about the security issue were on the announcements of the homepage, but when people go to the website, they don't stop to read the announcements. They go to log in and try to access their account to do business. And rather than putting that message on the login page or right after the login, people were forced to kind of try to figure out what was happening or keep trying to log in or keep trying to access without being able to. It took weeks for information to be developed and posted to guide people to alternative options. There was nothing that said, if you can't link your case, here are the other things you could do to make sure you could do business. And that was a huge miss that affected the rate of calls to the counties. The case linking was deactivated, but the option to link the cases was not removed for weeks. And there wasn't a message saying why it wasn't available. So people were getting messages that suggested there was something like that their case was closed or suggesting that they did something wrong. And that wasn't the case. So we recognize that there's like a division of labor of sorts between counties about counties provide public facing support and the project focuses on technology. But the reality is that those boundaries do not reflect the reality of what is needed. There needs to be a better way for the project to assess where they do have a public facing obligation to communicate to clients through the website. I think this is a really big learning opportunity. We know that there's probably still going to be technology issues in the future. We know that bad actors get real creative to work around stuff as things get developed. And there needs to be a plan in place, like a checklist or something, so that if and when something like this happens again, there's a real clear set of responsible parties to make sure that clients have the information they need as quickly as possible and that the website gets updated so that we're not inundating counties with questions that they can't even answer for clients. So again, we're really grateful for all of the efforts. I think this was a great learning opportunity. And I just want to raise again that there needs to be some approach within the project of considering what it means to communicate to clients in a timely way and not just leave that up to the role of the counties as the public facing part of this process. Thanks again.
Jen, this is Laura. We definitely are taking a look at this incident, and we'll be doing some reflections on, you know, what could be some processes that we could document and put in place for any future events. And I appreciate you mentioning that security is an ongoing thing here. Cybersecurity just continues to get more and more complex, and the attacks more and more sophisticated. And so some of the lessons learned, especially around communication, we're definitely going to be circling back and documenting that so that in the future, we've got a checklist, as you mentioned, to be able to follow and to more quickly be able to react from a communications perspective going forward. We definitely appreciate the comment, and we appreciate your guys' collaboration as we were moving through that incident and providing us with some of your thoughts and feedback on not just communications, but as we were looking to make changes going forward, making sure that we've got our customer in mind as we're doing that. So appreciate the collaboration with you all.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment? I think I heard someone. Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to the next agenda item. Thank you. Final acceptance.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Wendy Batterman with our CalSAWS QA team. And I just wanted to give you an update on where we are with final acceptance. So starting this slide, in the last few years, we already have completed final acceptance for OCAT, Benefits Cal, and then for the C4 migration over to CalSAWS. And those were completed between November 2021 and May 2022. Where we are today is that we've actually just completed central print in the last couple of weeks in the first part of March, and we're keeping open the CalSAWS and CalWIN ISS for now. For CalSAWS, we, the QA team, consortium, et cetera, we're all working together through analysis of current documentation. This includes review of recent security hardening activities that Laura and Rachel just discussed for the Benefits Cal security topic. And we're actively monitoring the open defect queue for that. For the CalWIN ISS, we are also working with Consortium and Deloitte on extending the ISS support period for all 18 counties. And the focus on that is really with reports. And you'll hear a lot more about that with the risk updates that's coming up next. And then also later with the report status update. And both Jarek and Sean will be bringing you up to date on those. We will be coming back at a future meeting with additional updates for final acceptance on these. Next slide, we'll go to Arnold for a CalSAWS update.
Thank you, Wendy. So where we are on the CalSAWS migration final acceptance is at the step 10. It was our final acceptance period and look back for the 30 consecutive days for the period of 2/1, February 1st through March 1st. We're now in step 11. Which is reviewing those results. And as Wendy indicated, we'll be coming back at future meeting to hit step 12, which is achieving the final migration, final acceptance. So with that, I will transition over to Rachel to talk through Ben Cal.
Thanks, Arnold. As Wendy had mentioned, we have extended our CalWIN ISS team to provide support beyond what was noted in our final acceptance process. Now, while the final acceptance process has indicated that all of the items are done based off the feedback that we've received from some of the counties pertaining to some of the challenges around the adoption of reports, we have extended the team, and Jarek is going to be talking about that when we get to the reports update. One of the other items that we have also observed through some communications with the counties is that the adoption of the new ticketing process is also something that we need to explore. So the team is going to be looking not just at reporting, but collecting information from some of the counties around some other areas of adoption that potentially the transition had not been fully executed, and we'll be sharing that with the counties.
All right, thank you. So just kind of summarizing where we are with our closeout. If you see a check mark on the next couple of slides, it means that we've actually closed those out. The open boxes highlight items that we're still working on with our delivery partners to review and get everything closed out. This includes everything from verification of our defect resolutions, compliance with SLAs and specifications, and of course, review of the CalSAWS migration final acceptance certification and the CalWIN implementation certification reports. Next slide. As we talked about before, central print closed out a couple of weeks ago, and those 6 check marks confirm those items are all closed out per contract. We will be continuing through into CalSAWS, M&O, and M&E beyond the final acceptance. So we'll continue with release management, independent tests. We're reviewing on a monthly basis performance and SLAs, the service desk, and all the technical upgrade planning as well. So more to come in the next few months. So back to you, Cindy. Thank you.
Hey, great. Thank you. Any comments from the PSC members?
Hi, this is Elaine. I really appreciate the visual on what's pending and what's been completed. Thank you.
Okay, any others? Any public comment? Okay, great. And yes, thank you for all the information on that. So we'll move on now to M&E risks.
All right, for M&E risks, from an overall risk score on the program, we're remaining fairly consistent with the number of open risks that we have, as well as the overall score for those risks. If we move on to the next slide, we'll do a double click on these and we'll start out with risk 102. Holly, are you on to be able to talk through project funding?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Arnold. The first risk is an ongoing risk related to funding, which we've been tracking at a medium risk level due to the state's budget situation. We did request additional funding for budget year, so our current status is that we're tracking the progress of that request through the May revise updates and just monitoring it very closely at this point. Thanks, Arnold.
Thank you. Thanks, Holly. And then Peggy, can I have you go through 203?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Risk 203 is our risk where we are monitoring our communications to ensure that they're meeting the need for our attendant audience. So in this risk, we have a couple of things that we're tracking. First, we have our strike teams. Our web portal strike team has restarted their effort again. They identified a short-term and are looking at long-term approaches for this effort. A quick win was identified and which resulted in a CIT number 003524 that was sent out which was a quick reference guide for folks to be able to navigate through the web portal. For next steps on that, for that strike team, they're going to be continuing discussions on the long-term approach, which includes cleanup of our existing web portal and looking at more efficient navigations and archiving methodologies. For our communication strike team, they also have started up again. We've put together a internal review, a process, and it has gone through internal review for feedback. And it will continue through the review process to make sure that the processes that we're adopting work well. The new thing that has happened is our M&E roadshows. I'll be giving you an update on that again a little later in the agenda. But our customer engagement team, led by our regional managers, we are doing road shows for the counties. Now that we're done with migration, now we're focusing on M&E. And so these road shows really are to set the tone for how we work as 58 counties in one system. So they started this week, actually. Today is we're doing multiple sessions for each of the road shows, and the third of the first round is concluding today, and the first topic was on governance. So more information to come on road shows.
Thank you, Peggy. All right, Karen, could I ask you to come on for 201 and 239?
Good morning. On 201, the pace of policy may exceed the capacity of the project teams, resulting in less automation. We are currently working through a lot of bill estimates and providing that to the state. And we will see what happens with the policy as it comes out with the deficits that's being faced this year and see what changes that means for us. But at the moment, we are remaining steady in this risk. On risk number 239, on the lack of consistent state language translations, we are happy to report that DHCS has adopted the same software that we use, the Adobe software, and we have been working through a few tweaks with that, but very happy with the ability to be able to utilize the same software. From our perspective, it makes the job a little bit easier to be able to not have to take information in and then retranslate it, if you will, into our own software. So moving it from the like software to like software makes the job a little bit simpler. We are still working with CDSS on the same approach to use the software. We were informed recently that they've run into a few snags in that area, but we will continue to work with them and see if we can get software implemented on that side as well and be able to continue to move forward.
All right, thank you, Karen. Lynn, could I have you come on for 246 and 290?
Good morning, everyone. Certainly. Thanks, Arnold. For 290, or excuse me, 246, the perceived gap in functionality with the Get Cal Fresh may impact adoption of Benefits Cal. This one is the item that we have been tracking for several months, where a list of items was identified and we're working through on implementing pieces to help meet the needs to be able to get the Get Cal Fresh to be able to sunset that. We have just a few remaining items that we're working on, an approach on how to work on getting those within the system. This has recently been moved to a medium, in part due to the budget status at this moment, relying on budgeting on the budget to help with these changes that we need to implement to complete all of this. We do continue to work with CDSS on a plan for and continuing to move forward, but we are definitely watching it for just for cost perspectives. But the goal is still for being able to help support the sunsetting of Get Cal Fresh. As we move to item number 290, the release of information and policy lacks clarity, which may create privacy and liability exposure. That one we met this past Monday. We continue to make some progress. I will have another update a little bit later on the agenda, but definitely we're still highly engaged with our state partners, the advocates, CWDA, on moving this forward. The policy clarifications are coming together. The state's working on the letters, and we'll begin looking at approaches for helping with what operational needs are going to be needed, and also some of the automation. I'll turn it back to you, Arnold.
Thank you, Lynn. Sean, I'll let you talk through the reports on 296 and 297.
So on 296 and 297, there'll be a lot more information coming later that John referenced earlier. But the difference between these two items is whether or not it's pointing at state and fiscal reports or the management ad hoc. The first one here is pointed at state and fiscal reports. So in here, we have some really good updates. Our 9 listening sessions that we had across the 49 counties who participated completed in last month. That was great. We had 198 people come in and provide their input and feedback to us, again, across the 49 counties that participated. So it was a really, really good session. On top of this, we've started to provide I keep calling them deep dive, but there's I think it's called targeted review sessions is the official word for it. We ended up having 2 on the first report. It was about 4 hours of conversation on the 237 for CalWorks, which is your statistical or caseload movement report, along with some backup reports, the 253 and 255 that go with that. That spurred a lot of good conversation and knowledge sharing, and even conversations between the counties. So that was a really good exercise. We're continuing to work on a few other efforts around documentation. There's a reports reconciliation guide, which is something that Jared and his team is starting to pull together that we'll hear about later today. We also did complete a fiscal claiming guide that was put out there. And we're also working through some efforts to revamp the online help to provide more information to help you find reports. And a lot of this is going to come out in some of the draft recommendations that you'll see that will be in the eventual report that will be in the April PSC. On the management side, We did start up the management committee that started in January. They finalized their priorities in April. They're meeting again in March. Hot off the presses, we will be also now offering a support session like we do for state and fiscal for the management committee as well. So there'll be at least a monthly session that you can have staff attend. You can do the same thing like they do with the state fiscal one. Come in with your questions. This is confusing. Why is it doing it this way? I've submitted a ticket. What's the update on that? So the same sort of level of support you've been seeing on state fiscal will now start happening on the management side as well.
All right, thank you, Sean. I know we'll be hearing more about reports in the next section as well. So we'll continue on with risk 298, which is identify the continuous improvement process to prevent poor welcome bot and authentication bot customer experience. This risk is actually going through the process for retirement as we've addressed that continuous improvement process and improve the performance of both the welcome bot and authentication bot. We'll see some of that in another topic later this meeting. For 299, this is a risk associated with operationalizing innovation, scaling, and the POC initiatives. So this is all revolving around how we adopt innovation within the CalSAWS program. A deep dive was done around the learnings that we have from our recent initiatives so that as we look forward to the next wave, we will apply those lessons and we'll have a smoother transition as we scale these to all 58 counties. So this 299 we expect to move towards closure as well. On risk 300, stability of the CalSAWS enterprise identity and access management services. Work continues to progress there in multiple waves. With the Benefits Cal security incident, we did put a pause so that we could focus on strengthening the controls there. We will be resuming work on this month and continue on to work this to closure. So Cindy, with that, I can return it back to you for questions.
Okay, great. Thank you for all of those explanations. Any comments from the PSC members?
Hi, Cindy. This is Elaine from Ventura.
Hi.
Hi. I had a question for Sean on the reports. So Sean, thank you for your updates and also appreciate all the updates in this area. My question for Sean was in regards to the mention you had about somewhat of a split where there was a focus on the fiscal reports and then there's going to be a focus on the management reports. Did you say that there was going to be a support session for the management reports? And if so, when is that scheduled for?
I don't think we've sent it out yet. We just met internally earlier this week and agreed on a cadence in the process.
Okay.
What we're going to do is, I think it's sometime at the end of this month. I don't remember the date, I apologize, but the committee is scheduling to meet again. And in there, we're going to suggest at the next management reports committee meeting saying, hey, we think we need to establish this cadence of a support conversation because of the stuff that we're kind of hearing overflowing from the state fiscal support. And then assuming, I don't know why the committee would disagree with that. I mean, that seems like a very helpful thing, but assuming they don't disagree, then we'll establish that cadence and set it going forward. I think we're going to suggest monthly, but we'll see what the committee wants to do at that point first. I don't think it's actually been sent out yet.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that clarification. And then in the event that that moves forward as a strategy to support counties, would the invites go through the PPOC?
I mean, what we had talked about earlier this week is we would send it out to everybody that is currently going to the state and fiscal one, which is inclusive of the PPOCs, the CRLs, all the committee members, it's about 400 plus people that we would send that invite out to.
Okay, great. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Hey, Sandra, I see your hand up.
Hi, good morning. For risk 246, for this one, if there's a potential gap, is there some possibility that maybe Get CalFresh, there's a coordination between Get CalFresh and Benefits Cal so that there isn't a gap between services and we don't end up losing access to customers? Or is that being coordinated, or is there just already a set date to sunset Get CalFresh and there could be a potential gap?
I don't see Lynn or Karen hopping on, that's why we're tracking this risk. It was a budget issue that came up on this. And we are tracking through and working through to be able to minimize or close that gap. And working through those potential differences and working through those items. So that's why we're tracking that. There is not currently a change to the strategy to retire Get Cal Fresh, but we have to track through these changes and agreements that we've made to see where we are on that. So that's why we're tracking that and keeping it open, and that's why it's a risk. Karen, do you want to add anything?
I would just add, this is an ongoing process. It's not anything new. We've been working with both the state and the Get Cal Fresh folks and they put together, over time, they've put together a list of things that we've been working through to minimize any gaps. And what Lynn reported on is that we're dependent on some additional funding in order to help keep going in that direction. And so that's why it's a medium risk there, but we have a list of things that we're working to bridge any gaps that were previously identified.
And thanks,
Thank
Jen.
you.
Thanks, Jen, for the additional context in the chat, the sunset date, and that gives us a little bit of context for how we have to close those items out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. That was my question as well, how to work together with the Get Cal Fresh. Any other PSC comments or questions? Moving over to the public comment. Jen, I see your hand.
Cindy, yeah, thanks for raising the questions about Get Cal Fresh. I actually had planned to ask about that as well. And specifically, I'm curious if there's going to be any tracking of data or of outcomes for clients as Get Cal Fresh sunsets its functionality, because I think some of that will be done in phases to make sure that any loss of service impacts can be mitigated. I'm specifically thinking of how Get Cal Fresh fields, I think it's like 15,000 contacts from clients a month or a week, I can't remember. And so as that sunsets, those contacts are going to have to go to the counties. And so like what will be in place to make sure that the counties can then manage that additional increase as this service is sunsetted, along with other services that Get Cal Fresh provides. And I'm wondering if it would be helpful in the future to have a presentation of what is sunsetting in Get Cal Fresh and what is the comparable service that's being added to Benefits Cal, so that there's a better understanding of how those impacts will be mitigated as this process goes forward. So I have two questions. That was the first one. The second one was about the risk about keeping pace with policy. Made me wonder if there's a risk, and maybe it's here and I didn't see it, related to the priorities for Benefits Cal. I know that there's about 17 items that have been identified by the enhancements team, but that have not yet been scheduled for implementation. And so I'm wondering if there is, or if there could be any tracking of that risk for clients when those needed enhancements do not keep pace with the schedule of how they're identified as needs.
It is not included in this one specifically, but we could take a look at whether that would be necessary or not. This one is specific to policy rather than enhancements. So, because we do make that distinction between them, but we can take that back, take a look and see.
Then on the Get Cal Fresh, we can coordinate with CDSS so that they can outline what services may continue as the technology parity is reached. And if there's anything that Get Cal Fresh continues to do as they promote Benefits Cal as the single statewide portal. So we will coordinate with CDSS as the contract holders for Get Cal Fresh as we get to parity and look towards that retirement date.
Thank you for that additional information. And any other comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Good information. And now we've got the report status update, and this is going to be Sean.
It is.
Okay.
All right, everyone, buckle in. It's gonna take a little bit of time. So we're gonna go through kind of an update of where we are. I think at the next PSC, you'll see a lot of some of these suggestions and recommendations get a little bit more flushed out. Some will go away, some will come in. But this is kind of where we are right now, coming out of the surveys, coming out of the listening sessions, and continuing to have dialogue with the counties. So starting with the first slide here, I just want to root all of us on where we are towards the fall of last year. Looking at the RMs, this is going to seem like deja vu from about 18 hours ago. We just went through a very similar deck yesterday. But towards the fall of last year, there was this kind of groundswell from not just the Cowan counties who were wrapping up their waves, but also the C4 counties, former C4 counties, with concerns around reports and frustrations and lack of how to use them and how to reconcile them, and what's the logic behind that. And what that kind of gave birth to is this three-phased approach. Our first phase was, again, meeting with the RMs, gathering those hot topics. We co-developed a survey with the RMs, asking about 90 different questions, took about 90 minutes to complete, and administered that out to the counties over the holidays. That got a wonderful response. It was about 54 out of 58 counties. And like the RMs and I were talking yesterday, it's very odd to get 54 out of 58 counties on anything. So that was awesome response rate that we saw and participation from the counties. From there, we went into phase 3, where we used those surveys to target those conversations and really drive to start trying to get more either conceptual or specific issues that they're facing. And I will tell you, having been here on this project more than 20 years, I learned a lot about reporting. There's some things I designed 20 years ago that now I would have done differently had I had this feedback way back when. So it was a very fruitful series of conversations. And I think having a new voice in here from the Cowan counties has been immensely helpful. Right now, we're all the way on the far right of providing, these outcomes, and I'll start going through some of these later as we go along, that are currently in sort of a draft state. And by next session, we'll have a lot more consensus and nail down on what these are. Going to the next slide. Again, talking about that survey response, I just like the pie chart because it's so much blue. So many counties responded. It was kind of enheartening that everybody was jumping in the boat to try and help out. We even actually ended up giving it a couple extra weeks because we realized somewhere at the end of December there's some pretty significant holidays. So I guess that happens every year. But we ended up extending it to the middle of January, and that really helped us get more counties to participate. 34 of our roughly 90 questions were kind of open-ended, allow free-form text. So it really helped us to, gosh, I think I got more out of those 34 questions than I did the 49, actually, now that I think about it. Because I spent a lot of time reading through those responses and trying to figure out, what does that mean? What does that mean? But after you read it a couple of times in different people's words, some new ideas started to come out and some new concerns that were able to be understood. This was a lengthy survey. We got one per county, but that one person was responsible for gathering that feedback across the entire county. It wasn't one particular user group or one person that put their thoughts in there. There's a lot of effort on the county's part to participate in this. And again, we would actually bring up these survey responses in our sessions. So we would have a tool called Power BI that looked through the data. We would show, well, here's how you responded to this, and that was lower or higher than the average. Why is that? Let's talk through that in more details. So it was a very, very fruitful effort. Going to the next slide, this is the first 5 questions that were on the survey. And I'm not really sure why Power BI went top to bottom on the bar charts and then right to left on the table at the bottom, but I'll read them out to you. The first one is CalSAW's reports adequate meet the county's management reporting needs. So this one's focused overall, how do you feel about management reporting? And what we see is, well, LA gave us 4s across the board. So that's a pretty good score. So we'll kind of leave that aside for now, but let's look at the former C4 versus former Cowan counties. The former C4 counties gave us a 3.23, which isn't a great score, but is certainly higher than the 2.11 we got from the former Cowan counties. So we do see a significant drop from that perspective on the Cowan side, and that kind of went through the next few questions. The next one is the same question, but focused on state fiscal reports. I'm sorry, just state reports. And then we see the C4 counties with the 3.03, and then the former Cowan counties dropped all the way down to a 1.83. The next one is focusing on the fiscal side, and they get a little bit better there, where we're back at a 3.14 for the former Cowan, C4 counties and a 2.11 from the Cowan counties. The next one we put in there deliberately, which I thought was a really interesting question, of just basically, the longer I'm in the system, does it get better? And everybody across the board agrees, the further we get away from conversion, the further we get away from cutover, the more we're getting used to the system and building that tribal knowledge, everything starts to get better. And so we see everybody jump over 3 at that point. So that's a good indicator of either time is starting to heal the wound, or we're starting to react in a well-mannered, structured way to start to solve these problems. The last is how do we feel basically about the level of support provided? And the scores do get a little bit better here, but we still see the former C4 counties in a 3.0 and the former Cowan counties in a 2.44, which are not great scores. So some of the stuff we're going to see in the suggested recommendations is addressing that as well. We go to the next slide. This is focusing on those listening sessions. And I think I threw out some of my bigger numbers already, but we had close to 200 people participate. Each session was either as small as 15 people or close to 40. In those sessions, we did try to mix the counties as much as possible. We tried, maybe not necessarily by size, but we tried to mix former C4 and former Cowan counties. Sometimes the 2-hour discussion we would start it, and then it would go for 10 minutes and no one would talk but the counties. And they're more talking to each other, right? Oh, I understand that issue. This is how you do that. We wouldn't even have to, engage the dialogue sometimes, which was kind of the purpose. That was a good exercise for the counties to interact with each other, which is a lot of what we promote. Customer engagement's always talking about this. So one of our recommendations later will reflect back on that as well. From the project side, we had basically everyone we could get in the room room. It's virtual. A lot of people could fit in the room. But we had policy and design come in there. The regional managers, thank you. They had someone in almost, actually, I think all 9 sessions, you guys had someone, at least one person in all of them. So that was great. Because a lot of the times we'd say refer to your regional manager and then they wouldn't be able to talk. And I'd be like, that's right, talk to Melissa. As well as the ad hoc team, David Brune and his team are all of those sessions too, because a lot of stuff that would come up through there or stuff we would see in the surveys pointed at ad hoc. And of course, we had Accenture and ClearBest in there as well to help drive the conversations and see clarity. We did have 9 of these sessions. They were at least 2 hours long. We did it over 4 weeks. It felt like we were talking a lot. But I think that those 49 counties that participated really, I think, got something out of these sessions. Next slide. This is some of the stuff, again, we have in flight, and I think you may have seen this in various forms. From a meeting perspective, we have the state and fiscal support meeting still going. We've extended that out to 90 minutes. We still continue to see that used all the way to the last minute, and we're generally responding to some of the questions in chat through the bi-weekly communication. We have those, I wrote deep dive, I should have wrote targeted review sessions. Again, we have the 237, 255, and 253. We ended up having 2 sessions on that. We are starting, I believe, this afternoon, the deep dive on non-foster care fiscal reports. So we'll help you through reconciliation, the claiming process, how you produce the automated assistance claims, things like that. We already talked about how the management reports committee is restarted. They started on the 24th of January. They've already finished their prioritization. And they are scheduled another meeting. I think we got from Nancy that it was the 26th is when we will have that next management reports committee meeting. We've talked, I think, at the last PSC about the LA County reports. That's still in flight. We're working on getting that list from the counties of what reports do you want to see or potentially have expanded statewide. Again, some of these are going to be super easy. That's a great change that makes value for everyone. Let's put that in through the process and jump it all the way into implementation. Some of them are going to be, that's not possible. It's dependent on some LA specific functionality or pages they use or GR policy or something like that. Others are going to be, we can do it, but we need to replicate something or build something out, and then we'll work with the bi-weekly group as well as the committee to see what the priority is on those. Help desk, we're continuously working with the tier 3 team. We got some feedback from the RMs yesterday that we still have work to do, but we keep trying to meet with the tier 3 team to get out of a yes or no, problem or not problem position into a, I understand what Don's telling me, but maybe we need to respond with, and I didn't pick Dawn because of services. I'm realizing that right now. I just picked Dawn out of my mind because she was looking at me. But I meant Dawn in the sense of like she's the ticket, submitter. But because Dawn does nothing to do with service desk. Sorry. So we need to get them more into an educational perspective or a training perspective of, what are you looking for? Why are you looking for that? How can I help you? Here's some other reports that do that, or the report is or is not doing that because of this. What are your thoughts on that? And then kind of engage with the user instead of answering yes or no, it's a problem. I've talked a bit about documentation already. I will re-advertise the ad hoc support one for CIT 0383-23. I think that also got brought up last PSC. It's a one-stop shop for everything ad hoc. So if you have someone who needs help, that's a great place to go. On the right side, in process, I've already talked about online help. We're looking to really expand that and make it much more useful. The heavy lifting of documenting report logic is still in flight through our Gen AI efforts. We have a draft going soon for the ad hoc user group. So that will be a it will be a much more technical document for ad hoc users. Not necessarily targeted from like a business perspective, but from a technical perspective on where does that data live, how is that data pulled, and then the next phase will come in with going through the business or logic approach. System changes, we are still investigating adding report subscriptions. Our initial indications are that it will be a good sized effort. So we'll have to, as we nail that one down and head towards wrapping up these outcomes of how do we find funding and hours to support that effort. Going to the next slide, I want to go through some of these 3 key takeaways that we found through all this conversation. The first, I think, is the most obvious for all of us, is that the counties are having difficulty because they either lacked an education or training prior to go live, or they went live and they were like, well, how does this work? And I'm trying to find the reports, and there was no document or something for them to rely on to start providing that information for them. No documentation. I think that's the obvious one for everybody who's been involved in this. Let's go to the next one. Key takeaway number 2, which is a bit more interesting in terms of something we found through the surveys and conversations. And this is where we have found that there is a kind of philosophical difference that we have to use out of some of the counties. So if we go with the way CalSAWS works today, which is click 1. Oh, that's interesting. It didn't format right. But basically in CalSAWS, we have either data we count and put on the report, or everything else that's in the database that we did not count. And then we produce the desired report. In this case, it's a very small, tiny picture of the CF296. If anyone else could have noticed that, that would have been amazing. Now, on the 296, I'm going to put a number like there's 37 applications. I will then give you a hyperlink on that 37, drive you to a backup report and say, here's the 37 things I just had. Okay? That's all it's going to do. It's not going to provide you any information other than what I just counted and gave to you on your state report. If we click one more time, in engaging with the counties, we've seen a different philosophical concept. You still have that, what did I count, what did I not count, and they still produce the 296 or the given state report. And then there's a data set that's produced. In this data set is not just what's on that 296, but there's other information in there. And when we have started talking to the counties, they say, well, I take that data set and I apply my rules. And they say, I've had some counties tell me that they do filters in Excel. I've had counties tell me they upload it to some sort of schema or analytics tool that provides my rules to it. What we didn't hear is those rules are applied consistently across the counties. That there is some variance in both the way they're done and the logic in there. But the reason I bring this up is because it brought up 2 really specific points for us. One, a couple of counties said, I'm going to have a real hard time validating a report if I don't know what you did not count. Even if you provide the most robust documentation in the world of your current approach, I'm still going to struggle with that. The second thing is where we're going with the data lake, purpose-built data sets. is conceptually purpose-built data set in the lake is only ever going to have the data that is for that purpose. It will never have the inverse of that. It will never have data that is not for that purpose. So we're going to have to move into an approach of that pre-filtering, that pre-logic decision is done by the system, not something that's done at the review of each individual report. Going to number 3, which was another aha moment, which I think is what I was calling them last Friday at the JPA. In engaging with some of the counties, I think we would, we'd hear, well, there's a problem. And we had all the counties together. We go, well, see, 4 counties. We haven't heard anything from you. How are you handling this problem? And they're like, yeah, it's a problem. And then we kind of take a step back, like, well, how's it a problem for you? And they would say, well, we've had that same issue for years. So then we go, okay, if you've had the same issue for years, how come we don't have tickets? How come we don't have CERs? How come we don't have any sort of awareness of that having been an issue for you for an extended period of time? And that kind of uncovered some issues around the service desk. Tier 3 process, sorry, I'm not going to go down that path again, Don. But the tier 3 process, where I think some of the feedback that we're hearing right now from the counties and some of the frustration on those reports have probably existed for a period of time. But because of either frustration or apathy, or the county does what the county does, I have a problem, I'm going to solve it. That worked for me, I'm going to keep doing that. Right? The counties do what they need to do to get business going and solve their problems for them. That's a normal thing, but the project needs to also be able to know that information isn't working and solve those issues. So I think the counties may have walked into a bit of issues were there for a while. We thought everything was great, and I'm staring at Clarissa because she's right next to me. But I think maybe that we have kind of uncovered that there were some issues going on for an extended period of time. There's some smaller things, if we go to the next slide, that also uncovered itself. We already talked about report documentation, training. There are some training materials out there, but they're more how you interact with something than what it is doing. Ad hoc, this is where we've got some interesting feedback. Again, I keep advertising that CIT because we keep engaging, and it seems when we engage with who we're provided to engage with, they're unaware of all the support structure that's out there. So we keep re-advertising the CIT, we keep re-advertising the ad hoc monthly committee meeting and David Brune and his team. We have introduced some more functional support into that, either myself, Jason Osterwald, if you're familiar with him, or Duke from our data support team. We now participate in those meetings to provide kind of a functional answer when we're going to the ad hoc committee. We still see some unclear confusion in the counties. We get this a bit from the RM as well around what the different ad hoc solutions are. We do see a continued investment in Apex. That was the #1 tool selected or reported to us that I use for ad hoc capabilities. And the biggest thing I think we got out of some of these sessions is a lot of the counties were, I love all the ad hoc and I have the support that you're giving me, but I don't have technical people, particularly from our smaller counties, right? I don't have 40-person IT departments. I have either one person or no one, or I'm trying to have a program manager build ad hocs. I need some sort of answer other than a tool which requires me to input code. Now, David and his team do provide a ton of support, and they will build you something from the ground up if you ask them to. The general feedback we get is, I know, but if the director needs something or they're going to the board and they need an answer, I can't wait 2, 3, 4, 5 days for that. So how do I get that, ability to be self-sufficient and get that for ourselves? And so that's something we're working through as well. I think service desk I've talked a lot about. We still struggle with tickets being closed before resolution. And that's not done. That's a conversation between the tier 3 and the user, making sure we're on the same page and that we're getting the right answers to them. So that's something that's also a consistent thing that we need to resolve. Usability concerns, there's a lot to unpack here. The pages in the application, which I helped design many moons ago when I had hair color, I would have taken a different approach, and I heard some of this feedback a long time ago. It's really interesting when you get a new voice and a new mindset in there. And we now see that the way you have to navigate across all these sections and separations really isn't intuitive, and that we really need to go back to our user group and see what is the right way to allow you to search for reports. I think in our heads, we went, you're going to know that these are the reports in the system, go find it. What we didn't think of is that you don't know the reports in the system. You're trying to just find data. And that's a different approach to those pages than what we're doing for you. Report reruns is something that we need to do a lot better job on, both communicating and displaying. So that's something we're gonna work on as well. I just got an email from Alameda that they're like, hey, did you rerun this? Yep, and the communication didn't get to the right person. So we're gonna work through that as well. Some of the filtering on the reports is definitely something we need to take a better crack at. We found some interesting behavior in Click on how the filters are tied to the data in the report versus just tied to what is a valid thing to search for. So in certain reports, the data is already ready and available for you. Let's say you're looking for warrants. Well, if there's no warrants in that data set, I can't filter for warrants. So that's something we need to go back and look at those reports and set those filters based on valid data points, not necessarily what's in the data set. I've already talked about LA reports. And the bottom right here, which is where I think we've seen some other frustration from the counties, is there's some definite slowness when it comes to CERs or information request tickets, which are kind of, I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm just trying to figure this out. Where do I go with this? And those go into a queue to be worked. And we're seeing some slow speed reaction time to that. I know Karen and Gloria and Claudia and her staff are all working through that and coming up with ways to address that in a more timely fashion. Next slide. So getting into some of the draft recommendations, this one was the easiest slide to write. Just keep doing what you've been doing. Don't stop. Keep the doors open, keep the communication constant, provide the support to the counties that you can. So there's a lot in here that we're already doing. The intention here is some of it was intended to be short-term, maybe post-migration for a few months. At this point, we're recommending keeping that door open ongoing. Particularly around state reports, there's a lot of new policy coming in the near future that maybe this is something, this is just kind of the way things are. Maybe we need to have this ongoing conversation and see what things happen, what fluctuations occur over time. Next slide. So this is getting into some more specific things. I drew some boxes around a few of these. I don't know if I really want to stick to those, but the first one is we definitely think we need to spend a little bit more time in county. You know, maybe I need to go hang out with Clarissa. The It's It factory is there. It's my favorite ice cream sandwich in the world. Go down there and talk with Clarissa and her team and Nancy for a couple of days and start to get some more specifics and details out of that. And then I can take that back, if I do that with a subset of the counties, take all of that back to the bi-weekly meeting and say, we have found this training issue, these defects, these SCRs. We want you in your counties who we didn't get a chance to get to see if these same things apply. And that might be some good lessons learned if we can go in and kind of drive out those details. From a system change perspective, we have a lot of interest in that subscription functionality, as well as it's kind of tied with a notifications capability. We're suggesting that part of the subscription functionality was email you when your report was ready, which was something we had in C4 prior to going to our cloud native Click solution. But we want to tie in just knowing that a regular state report has been ran. So if Yolanda signs up for the CF 296, she'll just get an email saying, hey, it ran, it's ready for you. Or she'll get one 3 days later saying, hey, it ran again, just so you know, right? So that way, whether or not our communication channels are successful in those reruns, the system's still supporting that. The other one I highlighted here is consolidate and reduce reports, particularly around fiscal. A long time ago, we built these things. We had very few A codes. The way you put them back into the automated system, which wasn't even a workbook back then, was separate by each A code. That's how we built the reports. Now it's a giant, well, it's actually like a bunch of workbooks now, with a bunch of different tabs, and a lot of like A codes are kind of put together side by side. We need to take that and replicate that approach. There shouldn't be a need for you to open 80 reports to produce one monthly claim. And so that's where this is going in that regard. Let's go to the next slide. Documentation, obviously we need to move forward with the Gen AI effort, and we are working through that. Again, we most recently saw a draft of what was done for ad hoc. Again, it was very technical. So we need to pull that over to the functional side of the house once that phase is done. We're also looking towards creating a roadmap for ad hoc solutions. So where is this going? What is our end state? Where is the system going to look at the end? If we don't have a timeline for it, but we know it's coming, well, then let's bring that out too. So the counties are aware at some point in time, we're going in this direction. But we've had a lot of feedback, particularly from the RMs on this side, that there needs to be some more coaching and understanding through that. On the consortium side, again, working with Karen and her team, introducing some either KPIs or kind of service expectations when you submit a information request ticket or a CER, like what should your expectations be around the response time on that. Also in there is establishing rules for county specific requirements. So we are getting a lot of, I love your report, but I need these 5 columns, and no one else wants those 5 columns. So how do we handle that? Particularly not so much the column scenario, but when I need a report and it's only me who needs a report. The last bi-weekly meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about one county who needed a particular report for certifying an interface. And we talked about this for about 30 minutes to find out that was one county's way in which they submit for certification. No other county is doing it that way. Other counties just say, well, I don't do that. I just write this kind of letter explaining how it works and sign it. We don't pull data for it. So that would be another scenario of, what are our rules of engagement as a statewide system? What is an ad hoc? What is something we should automate? From a county perspective, and this is where I employ all of you to please help reinforce tickets. We continue to see declining ticket volumes on reports, which shouldn't be happening. We haven't done that much to resolve your issues. A lot of that's coming soon, but I implore you that if you see something from your staff and they bring you something, one, is it in the bi-weekly communication? Because if it's not in the bi-weekly communication, I don't know about it. And we're putting everything we know about in that 30-ish page document we send every other week. If it is in there and your staff is facing that issue and not logged a ticket, please send it. I can tell you on those bi-weekly calls, one of the first things we say is, thank you, Nicole, for that piece of information. You have a ticket, and it's almost always no. So please submit those tickets. If you're finding the tickets not getting all the way to tier 3, still give us the number. We can pull that back out too and figure out where that went. Sometimes it gets trapped in the county process. Sometimes Central is asking a question and waiting for an answer back on that. You can still give us the case number. We can pull that back up. Next steps, I think I kind of talked about a lot of these. We're going to keep consolidating everything, finalize the recommendations, and we'll see that in April with much more kind of details and timelines and estimates. And we'll have that and sort of prioritize at the next meeting. There's a lot on there, so we do have to apply some level of prioritization, right? We have a fixed budget, so we have to make sure that we're doing the right things in the right order. With that, Jarek, he's got a lot of support. He's also providing the team, so we're going to give him a chance here to talk through what he's contributing to.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, everyone. In coordinating with Sean and the reports team, we've identified 3 areas for continued OCM and communication support. The first of which is during the migration implementation, there's been about a dozen documents that have been developed that we're currently working with Sean and team to review and find integration points into existing reports documentation as it can help the Calhoun counties with reports. The second piece is around gathering case examples. So to the piece, Sean, that you just covered around really working with the counties and following up on tickets and reporting related issues. One of the things that our team is doing is really gathering those case examples. We know how busy things get in the counties and certainly have been serving as a point of contact for follow-up as it relates to gathering additional case examples to support tickets on top issues. And finally, communication support. To the point earlier that was covered, this is really facilitating the two-way communications between the Calhoun counties as well as the reporting team. And one of the things that we have worked on over the past week is getting together a CIT that will provide a good primer and reminder of the various resources, meetings, as well as communication channels as it relates to reports escalations. So definitely looking forward to working with the reports team and the Calhoun counties to continue to support reports adoption. Sean, back to you.
I think that's about it. I think that wraps us up on the report. So back to Cindy.
Wow. Okay, that was really great. just really quickly appreciate all the discovery and acknowledgement, Sean, that you and your teams have provided here. I think that you've hit on pretty much everything that we've experienced in the counties, and we're a former C4 county moving into CalSAWS as well. And I think you hit on some of our frustrations also, even though we've made it work in all of that, we do hear some issues, you know, that come up. Like you said, a lot of the fiscal teams, they've got to get those reports in, and so they've got to make it work somehow. So really appreciate your transparency and in providing, you know, what the counties have all been experiencing. And I also wanted to mention too, just really quickly, I appreciated also, for example, when we get some kind of a statewide request, for example, I do appreciate that the project made some extra efforts in order to assist the counties with providing responses. Sometimes we don't know where to start on that, and it did help, especially with some of the smaller counties, if they don't have the resources, as you mentioned, in their technical teams to provide those responses. So that was a really helpful session. I know our staff appreciated it as well. And so then lastly, too, I know you had mentioned the LA County reports. And previously in the presentation, you had said that you had kind of asked the counties, what is it that they need as far as, you know, what are they missing? I'm kind of, you know, hesitant or wondering, sometimes counties don't know what they're missing. And so I'm wondering, how are you providing, or maybe you have already, here's what LA gets, because obviously their scores were very high. So they're getting what they need, it seems. So is it a situation where you'd say, here's what they're getting, and asking the counties from these reports, what do you need? Or is it sort of just, hey, counties, what do you need? I guess my confusion is, how do we know what we need if we don't know what we need? Possibly.
So Cindy, what we did is we actually, right now, a lot of the requests are coming from, I have a need somewhere in this general area. I see a LA report with a title that looks like it might help me, and a one sentence description that also infers in the online help that it might help me. They haven't actually looked at the report to know that it helps them or not.
Got it.
So what we did is just what you just said, is we took all that information, we took all the reports, we got more information about them and provided that back to the counties. And the idea is that now that you've seen more information about that report, do you still want to explore it statewide? Some of them are going to look at it and be like, nope, that's LA County's GR time limits. That does not work for anyone but LA County. So that becomes, you know, not helpful. But there's some of the other ones they're going to look at and be like, absolutely, like that is a hole that we have in our reporting that we should fill with that right there. And then we will take that, assess it for its difficulty in replicating. Again, if it's easy, we're going to jump it all the way to implementation, put it through in a priority release as quickly as we can. If it's something that takes a significant amount of effort to replicate, then we will take that to the committees and say, hey, do we want to shift priorities? We want to find out some other way to get this in. And then there are going to be some that are completely unique only to LA because of certain pages in the application, like childcare, they have unique APP pages, or the way they do some of their registers for register in the fiscal auditing sense, not reporting sense. But they have some register pages that feed into their ECAPS fiscal system. So that wouldn't be used by anybody else either. But you're right, the first thing we did was give them more information about what's there. We didn't want to just replicate and cause that maintenance effort just to find out no one's using it anyway.
Thank you. And then just wanted to mention too, what I try to do here anyway is when we do get a request for a report, we try to go in. My first thing is go in and see if it's in CalSAWS first. Let's see if it's there for us already. But like you said, oftentimes it'll be, but we just need this one extra thing, you know? And so I think that's something that it sounds like you're looking at. How do we get that one extra thing maybe that needs to be added, a column or a data, a criteria or something like that? And then it would be perfect. But, you know, counties, we get so many requests. And so I know it's going to be hard to put those all together. But before I stop talking, I just want to really appreciate this really in-depth review. And I think it's really going to help everybody. So appreciate all of that information. And with that, any other comment from any PSC members or questions?
I think Clarissa has one.
Yes, just a quick comment. Thank you, thank you. I know Region 1, San Mateo County specifically, has not been shy about sharing our frustration and our concern, both from fiscal, state, as well as our ad hoc reporting. So I appreciate, Sean, you and your team's effort in going through this process with us, alongside us, as we uncover some of the issues, not just Region 1 issues, but statewide as well, or consortium-wide as well. So thank you so much. Cannot wait to see those recommendations and the timeline as we move forward. And then, of course, I have one question. Some of us in Region 1, some counties in Region 1 have engaged in separate services, in documentation, some assistance with, some runs of ad hoc reports that from our vendors. And I would hope, and I don't know how that's going to happen, that some of that coordination and documentation, because I would hate to see our efforts wasted on, documentation that's been provided to us through these separate services, and then yet another document. I don't know how that would play together, because what was provided to us was really kind of a Word document, right? It's not incorporated in the system. It's just kind of a Word document. And hopefully they will coordinate with each other. Those documentations would coordinate with each other so that our staff then would not be confused as to which one is correct.
We agree with you on dueling documents. We want to make sure that there's one source of truth.
Yes.
That's why for your Deloitte separate services that you may be speaking of, Jarek and team are involved and coming to a single source of truth to make sure that that's shared across. And he said the 18 counties because that was the ISS scope of work in that. But of course, it's going to be shared out to all 58 counties on that. And those separate services resources from the Deloitte side are reporting through Jarek for consistency and those types of things. If you have items that are through an Accenture separate service or something else like that, they're coordinating through Sean. So there should not be dueling documents on those things. So we have a single source of truth.
Thank you.
If anything, Jarek and Terry are jumping us forward in some of those efforts, because Terry's got something we can either start with or already done, and we just got to review it and get it out to everybody. Right, Jarek?
Yes, yeah, that's really the sprint that we're going through right now, is taking a look at existing documentation that can be rolled out. And the intention is to make sure there's that consistent rollout to all counties.
And one thing I want to encourage our PSC members, and I know that the RMs are doing this, and we know that every single county attends PSC or JPA, and we need to get this information out. Obviously, we've heard you. We know the concerns, we've heard you, we've gone through, and you guys have invested in the analysis, and there's a plan. This isn't, as you can see, it's complicated. It isn't going to be a flip of the switch and one SCR or CER or defect that's going to fix this. It's going to be really an iterative process that's going to get us into a better position. But we really need all of our counties to know that they've been heard. We have a plan. There's engagement models that are there to invest in those things. And over time, we're going to get much better. And it's coordinated. But please share that information to your county, your regional reps that may not be engaged in this meeting or in the JPA, to make sure that they have that and they're plugging in. And I know the RMs are doing that, but they could use support from their PSC members.
Yeah, thank you, John. Just wanted to mention too, I know it's really important, and we're trying to get that message across about the help desk tickets. I can tell you, Sean hit on it as well in his presentation. Like I said, sometimes the counties move on and they're like, oh, I called in a ticket, but it didn't really work out the way I was hoping. And so, you know, they get disillusioned and don't call it in again, if it, you know, and so I think that's a really important message to just try again. Maybe it didn't work first time, but try again, because things are people are looking at it now. So I think that's a really good message. And that's what I've gotten from my staff here is that, well, we called it in, you know, 2 years ago, you know, so I think it's just keep working at it. So appreciate that reminder. And any other PSC comments? Okay.
Hi, Cindy,
Oh, okay.
sorry, it's Sandra. I do appreciate this additional information, and we are going to utilize it as far as getting additional help to do a better job at utilizing the reports. I do think training is going to be a great support. So thank you for offering that.
And hi, this is Rachel from Region 3. As a region with many small counties, you know, a lot of our counties don't have the individual resource. We don't have a whole unit full of developers, for example. So, so much appreciate the additional support that we're receiving from the project. And when you were listing out the observations from the county listening sessions, I could hear a lot of things that I know probably came from our county and our neighboring counties. So thank you so much for the opportunity to improve the process and for the commitment, really. You're not just providing a product and saying, well, this is it, you had your chance. You know, really appreciate the opportunity to improve our reporting process and to improve the supports that we receive from the project. So thank you so much.
Hi, Cindy. I just wanted to just add, just thank you, Sean, and all for all of the work, and especially for just putting these slides together. They're very informative. So I thank you for that and just look forward to the continuing support. And I'd like to just extend an invitation to you, Sean, here to come visit us at Ventura. The weather's very nice. We'll take you everywhere you want to go.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, great. Any comments from the public? Okay, I'm seeing none. I think we'll move on to the next topic, and thank you so much. Release and policy update.
Thank you, Cindy. Lisa Sellers here. Hello, everyone. So as John mentioned earlier, no formal update for continuous coverage unwinding today. However, since I've talked about it pretty much every day, I've thought about it for the last 16 months, I do have some quick updates for you all. One, we did hit a milestone this month. Earlier this month, we did run the ex parte process for our final month of the unwinding. That is for our May 2024 renewals. So ex parte ran. We have also generated the Medi-Cal renewal packets, and they have been sent out. And I do have some stats because I love numbers. In totality, we have, I think, generated well over 3 million renewal packets through the last 12 months and close to 5 million reminder notices. So as I mentioned on the reminder notices, you might cast your mind back prior to the unwinding, we were sending a single reminder notice. We now, through the unwinding period, send 2 reminder notices to our Medi-Cal members. And with MEDL 2409 that I think just was released earlier this month, that second reminder notice will continue. So our members will get 2 reminder notices when they receive packets. So that extends beyond the ending of the unwinding. One other item, I have 2 other items. One more to share is Karen, Sharon, and myself had the privilege, although I did feel like I got called to the principal's office when Yusha called and said, hey, can you come present with DHCS to CMS a few weeks ago. It was a little nerve-wracking, must admit, but it was truly a privilege because I got to tell the California story, the only state in the country that was going through the unwinding while migrating, monumental migration, historic, through last year. And I got to share our experience and the collaboration and all the efforts that, the counties, the workers, the project staff, the collaboration we've built with DHCS to get through the unwinding. So it was great to hear the recognition and appreciation from the CMS director and support Yinja in telling our California story. So I just wanted to share that with you all. It truly was a privilege and it made me very proud to be part of this project, this team, and this journey at CalSalt. Third update, we've had challenges, no doubt about it. We've reflected on those throughout the unwinding. We continue to focus on working with you all on the outstanding renewals. I know some information being shared with some directors in the past couple of weeks. We have collaborated with DHCS, with the RMs to get some information out around the outstanding renewals. So that should be making its way to a subset of counties at this point where there's a focus on looking at their renewal rates, outstanding renewal rates, and working through those. So they're my quick highlights for continuous coverage unwinding. And with that, we'll head into our releases because the release train continues. So as we sit here in March, we just received green light yesterday for our March release. It is a very large release. We have a few policy items in there. A couple of weeks ago, we did 2 webcasts. This is the first time we've done 2 separate webcasts for the release. That shows you kind of the focus on some of the functionality. The first general webcast had over 20 SCRs that we demonstrated. I think there were over 500 county participants. And then we did a specific webcast related to skimming and scamming policy and specifically around automation coming with the EBT 2259. So I'm going to talk about that automation. It would be great if we can sit here and say there was a declining skimming and scamming rate. Unfortunately, we've heard a lot about bad actors this morning, and I know that you're all dealing with this daily. Today, you obviously receive this form from participants when they've experienced that loss of benefits, and you are processing them for these forms. I know some counties are well in excess of 1,000 of these a month. With 2403, there's increased automation in that there's integration with Benefits Cal and the ability for customers to submit information online. That will come through a new API that we have developed. And so as that form comes through from Benefits Cal, there's a new task that's going to be created for workers. So they have been alerted to that form being received. It obviously gets copied into imaging. We do also journal that that form has been received. There are some new pages in the application where you'll be able to see the transactions that were entered by the customer, as well as updates to the notices of action. So that's all coming in. We had a specific webcast on that, as I mentioned. We hit a record of 800 participants. We are going back and reflecting on that because that is a lot. And there are a lot of questions. We did re-record the demo. We did answer the Q&A. They were all sent out to the counties last week. I do want to mention that this is an ongoing effort. There is a work group around this particular policy around theft replacement. There's a meeting next week. We do anticipate further automation. As we've put this kind of first phase in, we expect to hear from you all around some tweaks and enhancements that would make the processing easier for you in this space until we get to that point where this becomes hopefully a non-issue at some point someday. We have further automation coming out. I know we're currently under the ABOD waiver through October of this year. Our understanding is that CDSS is submitting a new waiver. Notwithstanding that, we do have some automation changes around increasing the age limits, rules around ABOD, new exemptions for our members, our beneficiaries experiencing homelessness or former veterans or former foster youth. So we will be putting those changes in. The system, whether we get the waiver or not, just to have it ready should we not get the waiver. A variety of other changes then coming with the release next week. We have sent out the invite, so we will have the daily call for the first few days of the release next week. It's already been a busy month in March. Earlier this month, we ran the FPL COLA. There was about 1.5 million programs that were targeted for that COLA. We have run a mass replacement. I'm going to talk about some of those statistics in a minute. And we have been supporting San Diego County with disaster CalFresh. This was related to the weather, extreme weather that the county experienced back in on or around the 21st of January, right before the conference. It has been a learning experience across the board as we go through the disaster. We do intend to have a reflection session with the county as well as with the state to talk through things that were learned and improvements that can be made as we move forward in readiness for, unfortunately, future disasters and extreme weather that we continue to have here in California. I think with that, we'll actually go to the next slide. All right. So I wanted to talk just a minute about the mass replacements. Again, back in February, a number of counties were impacted by some of the severe storms that we had. You'll see there's about 27 counties where we went ahead and ran a mass replacement for a subset of the February CalFresh benefits. So those benefits were replaced, over $4 million. For the impacted zip codes and members and households within those counties. We have just received a second request related to storms that occurred in early March, and you see the counties listed there on the right. So we have been providing data back to CDSS. They need to take that data and get FNS approval, and as soon as we get that approval, we will be running a mass replacement for March benefits for the impacted zip codes and residents in those counties. Next slide. I just wanted to do a reminder. We spent a bit of time last PSC talking about the upcoming case removal. It is an annual process that we will be running in CalSOARS. This is where cases that meet the retention rules, we go through a process of identifying those cases. For this particular run, as mentioned last month, it impacts the former C4 counties and LA counties, so 40 of the 58 counties. We have provided monthly updates to you, as you see there in the middle of the slide. There's a little over 1 million programs in scope, and the target is to run this in early May. So counties have another month or two to review the cases and flag any of those that they want to keep. Again, when we run this process, we create a shell case. There are certain data that we always retain, for example, time limit data. But we just wanted to give you a quick reminder that this is out there for those counties who are impacted, and provide information on the CITs that alert you to the availability of updated reports. With that, we're going to pivot here for a moment. I want to talk a little bit about, next slide. You know, we talk a lot about our regular releases. We've got priority releases, at least weekly. We also have we have three what we call very large work streams. They tend to be multi-month, multi-year efforts. You may recall that Michelle talked a little bit about these back in Q4 of 2023. So we wanted to highlight one of the three, and the three are specifically working with the CARES project, which is the new system replacing CWS CMS. We have CFAP, which is started as well and targeted for implementation next July. And we also have wood tip replacement. Today, we just wanted to talk a little bit about where we're at with the CARES integration project. Again, this is a multi-year effort. You might be like, why are we, isn't it going live in 2027? Hasn't this been done before? It's been a very long project, but we have been making great strides. So we wanted to talk about where we're at and what we're doing this calendar year as it relates to CARES integration. So again, the goal is when CWS CMS is replaced with the CARES system, there will be real-time integration with CalSOARS, which will aid the communication between the social worker and the caseworker. So what you see here is in those beautiful colors, these are all the different data groupings or data domains of areas where we're going to be sharing data across the system. Behind this, there's a lot of changes we need to make. There can be new online pages in CalSOARS. There's APIs that facilitate the transfer of information. And so you can see there's well over a dozen, and we have started work on each of these items. So next slide, I want to give you a quick preview of the timeline. So again, this is a multi-year effort. Go Live is out there. But this calendar year, we are spending a lot of time doing our development activities with a goal of getting to done on system test at the end of the year, because the beginning of next calendar year is when there is an elongated user acceptance test phase. Now, this timeline is actually a CalFORS development timeline. Some of you may be familiar with an official CARES timeline that they published. It's got a lot of steps, a lot of stages. We just wanted to really hone in on what we're doing from an integration and system development perspective. You can see there we're simultaneously working on, design, build, and integration all at once, and that is because we have multiple APIs that we're developing, and we actually doing that in an agile fashion. So we're working on them at different paces, different phases. We do have a CalSOS work group that was recruited back in November, I believe, of last year, and we meet with them every 2 weeks, and we show whether it's a design or prototypes of the pages or the working, integration with emulators. So we are well on our way to getting to system test in the next few months. We do have daily calls with OTSI staff and the CARES project. One of the hot topics that we're working on right now is developing that joint system test plan. So that's going to outline the test cycles, the testing scope, environments, and all the activities we need to do to get to done by the end of the calendar year. Next slide. So just from a quick development status update, so the APIs and integrations that you saw on the first page is about 17 of those. You can see on the left-hand side here. We're actually in test on 3 of them, so we are making progress. We have a few in design, as well as a lot in build. So we are iterating through all of these APIs with the goal of getting them ready for system test in a couple of months. The pages on the right are actually mock-ups that we've been showing the work group as we've been going through and incrementally building out these APIs. So this is really just a quick tour of where we're going with the CARES integration. Next month or the month after, we're going to bring to you where we're at with CFAP, where we're at with WIDTIP, just so you can get a preview of those as well and understand the timeline, the scope, and where we're at in those projects. I think that was my last slide. Back to you, Cindy.
Yes, thank you. So this FSED thing is still moving forward then? For now?
Yes, for now, yes. We are full steam ahead for now.
Okay, yeah, I'm like, what about that FSED stuff? So just really quickly, I did have a question too, or wanted to ask about possibly, you had mentioned about, this is back on the a former slide when you were talking about the EBT theft and the 2259 going in, that there was possibly some further automation coming on the EBT theft. I just wanted to throw it out there maybe, unless it's already been looked at. Would there be, we're doing a lot of card replacements, particularly at the end of the month as we're working that compromise report that we get. And so is it possible to maybe look at, I'll just throw that out there, some kind of a mass replacement process where, where we'd be able to just issue replacements directly from the report in a mass fashion, like here's all the cards we want to replace kind of all at once, press the button. And rather than, it's quite extensive in our county, how many, and I think other counties are doing this as well, how many we have to replace. So just thought I'd maybe mention that in case it's something that could be looked at with your work group, maybe in the future. Just a thought.
Yeah, that's awesome, Cindy. They're the ideas that we want the work group to bring to the sessions that we have, right? Because you're living and breathing this every day. Where are the pain points? Where could automation help you? You know, in situations like that, you know, we'd want to clarify with FIS and make sure that that could be done on that side as well. So definitely we want to hear the ideas, and then we want to put together what's possible from an automation if we need to get clarification from state policy. But that's everything we want to hear in the work group.
Yeah, great. Okay. And
so
you know,
I see the region 4 RMs in the room. Someone note that down. Yes.
Note that down. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Lots of the automation is always helpful. So any other comments or questions from PSC members? And any comments or questions from the public? Okay, great. Good to see all the good stuff that you're moving forward on. So the next item is the Benefits Cal update.
Good morning again. This is Lynn Bridwell, and I'll take the release of information work group update. As you can see here on the slide, at this time when we had the deck ready, the last meeting was on March 4th. We actually had a meeting this past Monday. We're definitely making some progress on there. Both DHCS and CDSS were able to provide some updates. They are working on drafting new letters with policy clarifications for the items that were identified, and it will be including as enclosures those draft charts that we have spoken about in prior meetings that outline some of the user roles and address some of the event that if there's any security items, you know, where some of that responsibility lies. So they'll be including that information. They will be crafting new state letters as opposed to erratas. They have jointly decided that it will be cleaner, and they will send those letters through their regular processing like they do for gathering stakeholder input. So the drafts will be sent out, shared with counties and the other stakeholders, and they'll go through that review process. So that one is definitely a good moving point on there and stepping forward on it. Our next meeting is in April, on April 8th. And we are going to be focusing on some examples or situations, and we're referring to it as use cases at this point of in the event that we have a customer who's requesting ROI through Benefits Cal and also wants to name a CBO, what is that going to look like? Those use cases will help us as far as trying to identify operational items that can be flagged for both counties and CBOs as we move forward, because we will definitely have a large number of CBOs that would be available to be selected, if you will. And then from there, that will also help inform what some of the automation changes might be to help support that operational piece on it. So we're getting some traction there and working on some high level approaches as far as milestones for the future and making progress moving forward. Thanks. And I believe owner will pick up the highlights. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. Following the ROI workgroup highlights, we will continue the Benefits Cal updates and keep our steering committee up to date with recent and upcoming important system improvements. And what you see on the slide is it just lays out the improvements delivered recently in the February and what is coming up this month, March, and next 2 months. Just touching the key highlights here. Since we met last time in the February release 2402 deployed to production as planned with a series of items, and where we added a link to CalHub portal in Benefits Cal under the additional resources section and student center. This is essentially for the mental health support for youth, young adults, and families. And also, as we look forward for this month, for the March, there is a couple highlights here. As Lisa mentioned earlier, in the CalSALS updates with the ACL 23 EB22259 ABT theft replacement claim form is being digitized in Benefits Cal as well. and which is coming up later this month, which will allow customers to report and submit their request online through the Benefits Cal. And similarly, CF303 form is also being digitized in Benefits Cal. So if the customer ended up losing their benefits, CalFresh benefits due to life situation, and this feature will allow them to provide the information in Benefits Cal portal and get their benefits replaced. Third item you see here in March is about the time on aid for CalWorks. This was also a collective change similar to the EBT 2259 for both Benefits Cal and the CalSouth systems. And when we met last time for the PSC meeting in the February, we had talked about a probable delay. And since then, further conversation had been taking place across the multiple stakeholders, including the counties, CWDA, and the other agencies regarding the implementation timeline. So, this item will be, delayed from the implementation standpoint. And moving on to April, key highlights here is we will be implementing new improvements for document upload functionality to enhance the user experience, and I will touch on it a little bit more in a next slide or so. And as Rachel mentioned previously in the beginning of the meeting, we have been currently working on actively re-enabling the case link functionality for the month of April. But during the re-enabling process, we will be taking additional security measures into consideration. And the last but not least on the slide is for the May release, we have a collaboration model prioritize enhancement coming up to provide an inline help text for customers when the case link does not happen automatically. And there is also SSA, assisted applications functionality feature is coming up in May, but it's going to be implemented with a flag. As requested by the SSA, we will be enabling it in September, but we can always prepone it whenever the SSA wants to have that functionality. Next slide, please. So this is just an awareness slide. As we have been covering earlier too, we have been working on tracking a lot of items on the horizon from policy, GCF parity, and the planning standpoint. And we will be working on in the near future for these items. What you see here are such as ABOT, CFAP expansion, homeless assistance, CAPI, and new pre-populated SAR-7. So these are the items we have been tracking closely from planning and implementation standpoint. Lynn, anything that you want to add or highlight before I move on?
No, thank you. I appreciate it, Honor.
No problem. Thank you. If you can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, perfect. So similar to the last month, next we wanted to update our PSC group on where we stand in terms of the usage and adoption of the applications, renewals, document uploads in Benefits Cal. During the month of February, the key highlights here are we saw over 220,000 new applications submitted by customers. The number of documents uploaded exceeded the 2.4 million in the month of February, and over 55,000 renewals and 58,000 periodic reports submitted in the month of February. And we also see a good volume of customers continue to report changes. But if you take a step back in the big picture, since the go live in 2021, we exceeded over 4 million applications submitted by customers as of end of February. So, which is a pretty exciting news that we wanted to share with our PSC steering committee group. Next slide, please. So in the next slides, and I will take a few minutes to talk about a few items that you may recall in the previous PSC meetings we had earlier. We have been periodically updating you for the number of areas that we have been tracking from the customer experience standpoint, based on what we have been hearing from the UCD CX channels, seeing in the service test tickets, or hearing from our counties as a feedback. Today, I just wanted to give you a brief update on those top 3 of these areas, like document upload, case linking, and account management, in terms of what has been implemented recently and what is coming up in the near future. Starting with the document upload, based on the feedback we heard from the focus group sessions and the UCD sessions we have been conducting with the end users, We delivered 2 improvements in the month of January for document upload functionality. And we have additional set of improvements coming up next month in April. So the intent is obviously to make it more intuitive for customers, where we will be enhancing the search feature for document upload to help customers to select the right correct document type. We will be adding an inline help text for each doc type with examples, so to minimize the possibility for an incorrect selection when user is uploading a document. As it relates to case linking, as Rachel mentioned earlier in the meeting, during the security updates, case link functionality feature has been disabled around mid-February, benefits called temporarily, and we are actively working on enabling the case link functionality next month in April. April 25th is the date we are shooting for right now. We are also targeting to make some usability improvements with adding some inline help text for customers when the case link doesn't happen automatically. We have been hearing some feedback from the customers on that area. In terms of the account creation and the account management side, similarly, I think this was briefly covered by Rachel and Laura during the security updates in the beginning. Multi-factor authentication has been enabled for new and existing customers login last month in February. And this month in March, we will be making series of usability updates for customers to make it the MFA for the login more intuitive and easy for the customers. But going forward in the big picture, we will continue to monitor these areas along with the other areas, of course, to gather the feedback from the stakeholders, the counties, customers, and the CBOs, and utilize the UCDCX channels and keep our PSC group up to date on these. Next is, I think, Chris. I will be handing over to Chris to talk about the optical character recognition updates. Chris or Danielle, are you there?
Owner, I can go ahead and take that.
Sure.
This is Arnold. So what we did, or we're in the process of a rollout of using optical character recognition to do more work when we're doing Highland updates. So the first phase was rolled out, and that was Monterey, Orange, Placer, Riverside, Sacramento, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, and Yolo. So we've had over 120,000 benefits CAL documents processed from the pilot counties. Over 98.4% of those are processed by OCR, so they don't have to move or route to the exception queue, which is a real productivity gain for the counties in processing these. The system performance has been stable, and our volumes have been within projections as far as the uploads are concerned. We continue to monitor and coordinate with the pilot set of counties on this, and then we are targeting full implementation by May 20th for the remaining 50 counties. And it'll be done in waves so that we can make sure that the system remains stable for all of this. So with that, I think we can move to the next slide.
Thank you, Arnold.
I think we can return it back
to Cindy.
Thanks, Owner.
Thank you. Cindy, we hand it back to you. This was the last slide for the benefits call section.
Great, thank you. Any comments from the PSC members?
Hi, it's Sandra. I just want to say thank you for that update on the OCR. It's really great to hear that 98% plus are going through the OCR. I know this was a concern for our staff, just identifying where the documents were being indexed when entered by the public. So appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So,
and we're looking for other use cases to further expand the use of OCR as well.
And I was just kind of curious with that, and it says here where the other counties will be targeted for implementation of that. Are those going in a phased approach, or is all the rest of the counties going together, or?
This is Danielle Benoit. I
Go ahead,
will have to take that back, but it is supposed to be a all 50 together, the next phase. So we're in a heightened sense of monitoring and working through and making sure that we're working with Highland for additional, performance reviews,
watching the numbers on these pilot counties closely, but more information to come on that if right now the plan is all 50, but we might move into a phased approach.
Hey, Danielle, I think last meeting we published a schedule that had the counties broken into groups. So I thought we were operating by that schedule instead of a big bang for the 50. So let's go back.
I can take that back, make sure
Yeah,
that I have the most up-to-date information.
Yeah, because last meeting we did publish a schedule.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments or questions from the PSC members? And any comments or questions from the public?
Hi, this is Jen. I'm curious about, so it's really cool to see how many documents get processed by the OCR correctly, or at least they don't go to the exception queue. So 2 questions. One of them is, if something doesn't go to the exception queue, is there a way of tracking if it still goes to the right place? And the second question is, what is the understanding of how workers are able to like find and process documents that do go to the exception queue? And I'm raising this because document submission is a pretty significant part of the eligibility process. And we do continue to hear that people are being asked to resubmit or receiving notices saying that they haven't submitted stuff that they did submit through Benefits Cal.
Annie, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so from the documents coming through, so they go through the OCR process. If the OCR is unable to determine it, we do use the customer's input on those documents to move them forward. We do have the case information coming through, so they're associated with the right case. Within the CalSAWS application, there is actually a button that users can go to that will show them everything that is uploaded from the portal, regardless of what the name of that document is for that particular customer, so that they can go there and see that. I know we've talked about this in the past, and we've provided some fact sheets around that point of service button so that workers are more familiar with it, so they reduces them not finding the document or having the customer resubmit.
Jen, this is Laura Chavez. Just to add on to what Danielle had mentioned, again, OCR is helping us to create more accuracy around the documents uploaded. So for example, it's able to pick up barcodes on things like SAR7 and renewals where the customer may have just uploaded that, or another example might be where Code for America might be passing that through as an upload through Get CalFresh. If the customer or a CBO or somebody uploading that document miscategorizes that and just didn't, make that correct selection on the document, that could cause delays downstream for workers to be able to know that there's a time-sensitive document that was uploaded. So in our mind, OCR is really providing that safety net to double check that the documents are categorized correctly and making sure that those do get routed into the right queues, especially for time-sensitive documents. So we will really feel strongly that this is creating an improvement for efficiency for the caseworkers, as well as more timeliness for actions on documents that are being uploaded by customers who, may be a bit confused on what they might be categorizing that in the dropdown. If that's helpful kind of background info on this one.
Yeah, I wasn't implying that I didn't think this was a good idea. I just want to make sure that, even though there's still, so there's 1.6% of documents that do get routed to the exception queue, and knowing that there's like thousands and thousands of documents, that's a lot of documents. So I'm just thinking about, for those folks, what are the fail safes for them to make sure that even though the system's great, we know it's not perfect. So what's in place to protect those clients and continue to support workers to find documents?
Yeah, and another highlight around that topic, Jen, is even though it may be routed into an exception queue, as Danielle was noting. They're still all visible by the workers. So as they click to view all the documents associated with that case, even though it's been routed into an exception queue, they can still see and view it. It just hasn't been moved into the next phase, like creating a task or the follow-on process. And then again, those are heavily managed by the counties. They do a great job every day of making sure that they're clearing those queues so that those documents are being routed correctly. And so that's something that that we at the project are also keeping an eye on.
One update, I had some outdated information. So that last bullet, full implementation targeted for May 20th for remaining 50 counties. I think with the success of that first wave and that pilot, that everybody's seen that we could go all 50 at once and do that over May 20th. So the schedule that was published last time is not going to be going forward. It's going to be the 50 remaining on the May 20th date.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for that update. Any other public comment? Okay, then I think we'll move to the next agenda item, which is contact center update.
Thanks. Hi, can you guys hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so some updates that occurred in the last month regarding contact center operations. So there have been, as we continue to meet with the counties, some of the things that we're doing and hearing from the counties is a request for additional e-gain and Calabria training. So we've done that for some particular counties, which we've also received a lot of great feedback from them as well as a result of those trainings. We've also have been hearing a lot of feedback to have continued training with some other counties. So we are currently working on scheduling additional trainings with some counties. There's also some ongoing conversations on business process re-engineering and optimizations that we're sharing with the counties. And some of these conversations and suggestions or lessons learned that we're getting from other counties that we're sharing with other with counties is has resulted in some reduced average time to answer and reduced abandonment rate. Yeah, I think we're ready to go to the next slide. Yeah, and then from a welcome bot and authentication bot perspective, we are currently live with the 7 and 31 counties respectively. And within the last week, we see actually an uptick in all of the areas for both English and Spanish authentication and English and Spanish welcome bot success rates. And that's reflective of 87,000 English calls that are recognized and routed correctly by the welcome bot. And then from an authentication bot perspective, that's 224,000 calls that are authenticated before being handled by the worker, ultimately saving time for the agent. Okay, can we move to the next slide? Yeah, and then from a RPA perspective, we are not actually live with 10 counties, but in fact 15 counties. So on March 15th, we did go live with Kern, Santa Clara, Yuba, Monterey, and Riverside. And we continue to make progress on rolling out RPA to additional counties. Since go live, we're still at a very high success rate for this RPA for EBT card replacement at 96%. All subsequent sprints are currently on schedule, and we're working very closely with the counties prior to and after go live to ensure successful deployments and success of the implementation for RPA for their counties.
Hey, Kira, on that, can you go ahead and just kind of outline how this RPA process actually integrates with the existing IVR flows so that everybody can understand where this is clicking into the functionality?
Yeah, at a high level. At first, the caller does authenticate and make sure that they are the right person for that process. And then using the data that they use during the call, it does go and search for that information in CalSAWS, and then it takes steps that are predictable steps that a worker would do to do the EBT card replacement. And as long as all the data exists in CalSAWS, it's able to do those steps and perform those actions to replace that EBT card, just as the worker would do. So it is, in this process, it does not require a worker action. And so it does help save a lot of time on the worker, allowing the customer to also be able to do this in a self-service manner without having to wait to connect to an agent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Cindy, with that, it's back to you for questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, great. Thank you. And yeah, it really does give, we did go live. I haven't heard of any concern. I reached out to the team in our county just to see how it was going. And it really does give the customer multiple ways to request those EBT cards. I think it provides a really good service. But any comments or questions from PSC members on the contact center update?
Hi, this is Sandra Bolin. For the bots, for the EBT bots, is there, and we went live and so far no issues either in Riverside, but is there anywhere where we can pull metrics to see how many cards are being issued monthly?
Yeah, so all counties, I believe there is a report that gets sent out on a daily basis. And it does go to a specific group of email addresses. So, sorry, was the name Sandra?
Bolin?
Yeah, Sandra from.
Yeah, so I believe there should be some team members from your county that are receiving this report. And if not, they can reach out to the cc.support.r inbox.
Sandra, we'll make sure that somebody reaches out to you and your RM will coordinate, make sure that you have that report, know where it's at.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And can you repeat that email again if you have not received that report or your team hasn't? What was the email again?
Yeah, every county, of course, is associated to region. So that's cc.support.r1 or R2. So any county that has questions about any contact center functionality, whether it's voice bots, RPA, or contact center, they can reach out to that inbox. And yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Kira, go ahead and post it in the chat.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks.
Kira, if you'd reach out to the RMs, make sure that they know exactly where that's at in that report so that they can make sure that their PSC members in the regions have access to that report and know who's getting that. That would be great. That RMs could also close the loop on that.
Okay, yep.
Okay, thank you. Any other PSC member questions or comments? Okay, any members of the public? Okay, great. Seeing none, we will move forward then to the central print return mail update.
Thanks, Cindy. This is Dawn. So just to give you, we had actually a couple of questions. All of those questions sort of revolve around imaging and could we image return mail envelopes? And I'm going to get to that in just a moment, but let me start with just giving you a reminder of the current status and what we currently do. And then I'm going to talk about what we're going to be doing in the future. So right now we have 5 counties who are fully implemented on the central print return mail, having picked whatever options each county wants. 2 more are going in April, and we do have a queue of counties behind that who are working through their paperwork. As you know, when we've talked about this before, what we're doing is basically hitting up against the USPS databases, that at the time of mailing. So when your correspondence, which you mail a lot of it, when it comes to us, we actually hit up against those postal service databases and we determine one of three things. Is it going to be delivered as far as the postal service is concerned? In which case it just moves along. Is it going to be returned? So at the point of mailing, we do know a number of envelopes are coming back. And historically they would have gone back to you, but you do now have an option. That is averaging across those 5 counties, some of which only joined a month or so ago, is about 4.61%. So it ranges around 4.5% to 5% of all of the mail that you send actually comes back to you as return mail. We also get information on things where the Postal Service expects to deliver it, but they wish you would do the address differently. Or they know there's something wrong with the address. Right now they're still delivering, but in the future they may not because it's going to time out because the zip code is old, for example. And the Postal Service does change zip codes. So we then have the option for you all to get that information back if you're a part of the return mail service, to get that information back as either a task, report, or both. But no matter what you choose, if you're in return mail, we journal the results. And when we journal the results into the case, we actually say, here's when you mailed it, here's the form you mailed, and here's what the US Postal Service said back in English. So we take the code coming from the Postal Service, we turn that into an English message so you know exactly what would have been on the yellow sticker. So if you're familiar with return mail, you know it comes back to you typically with a yellow sticker, not always, but typically. That information is all put into the journal. And then at that point, you can proceed forward with doing your normal, what happens with the return mail, right? Either through a task or through the report. You can also have Central Print be your return mail address so that 5-ish% of the return mail can come back to Central Print's address. So we get all that mail, we open it up, we sort it into right now 2 piles. We effectively sort it into the ones where we already told you that it was coming back, and into a pile where the Postal Service at the time of mailing didn't know that it was going to be undeliverable. And the picture on this slide is how that typically looks. Often you'll see somebody has scratched it out, which means it was carrier initiated. The Postal Service, when they got to the person's door or their mailbox or whatever it might have been, realized that they weren't going to be able to deliver, or the person who got the mail scratched it out and said they're not at this address anymore, but they didn't know it till they went to deliver it. Those are referred to as carrier initiated. We divide those into those 2 piles, and we have a couple of different actions that we do with those today. So if you can go to the next slide, we're going to talk about those 2 piles of mail. The first pile is that undeliverable set, which we knew at the time that it was mailed. So we knew it. So the situation is Central Print sitting with an envelope that we've already journaled weeks ago into the case, right? So it's already there. You already knew it. You probably already worked it. You've probably already resent that piece of mail because we told you what it was that we're sitting here holding. We, in conjunction with the CalSAS policy team, so thanks very much for their support, did go have some conversations with our state partners who have agreed that this envelope that we are holding that was journaled several weeks ago may be destroyed. It does not have to be imaged. The reason it does not have to be imaged is because there's no additional information on that envelope. Everything that was on the yellow sticky is already in the journal, plus more. So we took everything on the journal, or everything that would have been on the USPS official notification, put that in the journal along with when you mailed it and what you mailed. So no use for it. It can be destroyed. The other set of mail, the suspected carrier initiated, as it sits today, we have that sorted into this pile. We're sending those back to the county saying, we don't think we journaled these for you. So you're going to have to work these as a normal return mail. It's a small amount of the return mail, but there was still a stack that's going back. That particular stack depended on, because I sorted it physically, right? It depended on the US Postal Service putting the right sticker on it, that the sticker didn't fall off, that everything was done just the way the Postal Service said they were gonna do it, for me to know that we'd already journaled it. Well, that was kind of a bad assumption. They are not perfect. Was probably a bad assumption from the start that the Postal Service was gonna be completely perfect. So some of that stack of mail that is a suspected carrier initiated, in fact, we had already journaled. And so that's kind of annoying because you get this and then you can get a duplicate task, right? Because you get it back again. So in re-looking at that, and thanks much to San Diego for working with us on this as to how we can prevent this in the future. We are going to, again, today, if you're in central return mail, you're getting it back as a physical envelope. In the future, which is the bottom part of this slide, we are going to be implementing a process where, since we've already opened this envelope, we can get to the barcode. We're gonna scan that barcode. That's gonna tell us whether or not we actually have already journaled it. Definitively tell us whether or not we've already journaled it. So we can get down to a stack of mail that we know we didn't send to you before as a journal entry. So you've never seen it. These are true carrier initiated items. Going a step farther, which is the answer to the question, could you image the mail that you're getting back? So first and foremost, we took it on and said, let's knock out most of the imaging so it doesn't have to be done. So we've done that for the first stack of mail that was known at the time. So then we took a look at the rest of it and we said, you know what, there's not much of this left. It would be way more efficient if we just imaged it and sent through the APIs the image of the envelope, put a journal in there. So we're gonna journal entry. So again, we're talking about the carrier initiated, the ones that have to come back to you because you didn't know about them. We're gonna put out a journal entry. If you haven't seen it before, we will either do the report or the task or both, depending on what you picked. And we will load the image through the imaging API. So the image of the envelope is there to go along with the journal entry that says, here's what you sent, here's what you sent, when you sent it, and here's when we got it back. So that is the update for central print return mail. And again, everything I just talked about is really for those people who are in central print return mail or who plan to join central print return mail. I just wanted to provide that update on what the service is now going to offer shortly. We are through the PSC. We're working through the process of actually implementing the change and getting through the approvals. We don't have a delivery date yet, but we should have it soon. And I think that should answer the questions we got about, can you just image these things and not send them back to us? The answer is most of them we're not going to image, and you don't have to either if we're already journaling it. And for those that we didn't already journal, in the future, the answer is going to be yes, we can image it for you. So with that, Cindy, back to you for questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good presentation. Sometime I'd be curious to learn about how successful it's been in the counties that you've implemented now. I know we heard from the pilot when it was San Diego. So possibly I'm curious as to how it's going with all the new counties that have come on board and if that's possible.
Okay, I'll take that, Cindy, as a action to give them a chat and see who might be willing to provide some updates.
Great. Oh, thank you. I see it in the comments. San Luis Obispo is happy with the process. So yeah, it'd be good to hear about how it's working, and I know maybe some of the bugs have been worked out too, and some of these future enhancements. So thank you for that.
And thanks again to San Diego for working through that with us, because they and the other counties really have been providing the feedback and some of these suggestions so that we can make it more useful and get those pieces of mail from coming back to your mail rooms.
Yeah, big task to take on. So any comments or questions from the PSC members? Thumbs up from Albert. Any other questions or comments from the public? Okay, thank you. I think for that presentation, then we move on to the M&E roadshows.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning again, everyone. I'm Peggy Macias, and I am our Customer Engagement Section Director. So today I want to introduce to you our newest initiative in customer engagement. So now we are all on the same system and everyone's working together in the system. Now we want to go back and level set all the established processes we have for working together, 58 counties in one system. And so moving into our M&E phase, well, actually, we're actually officially in our M&E phase. So we want to use our road shows to tell you all about the different processes we have in place for M&E. And the true test really is going to happen now for our processes that we have established. And so we're going to go out to the counties, do our road shows, explain all of our processes, and then put them into place. It's not a one and done, meaning we're not going to go out, do the road show, and then we're going to expect everybody to know, okay, this is how you do it, and this is why you do it. Our RMs will continue, the support of understanding our M&E process. So as they go out to the counties in their regional meetings, they'll, include the information about the road show so that folks can ask questions if there's things that they don't understand. It's also an opportunity for making sure other folks in the county that need to know these processes will have an opportunity to hear the processes. So it'll continue. It's an ongoing effort. Next slide, please. So we are going to use our CRFI process to notify our counties of our upcoming road shows. It'll include information like, who's the best people to attend the road show, what the road show is about. All that information will be included in the CRFI. We did get our initial topics from discussions we've had with the counties, with our leadership on things that are important for you all to know. And we'll be using those to, as our kickoff for all of our road shows. Our road shows are going to be facilitated virtually. So we're hoping that, we continue to get good representation from the counties. Next slide, please. So this is our roadshow planning and schedule. I'm going to start off by saying it could change, the topics that we have listed here for the different months may change as things evolve. But for this month of March, we kicked off with our governance roadshow. It's actually winding up today. Today is the last day. We're doing multiple sessions for each of the roadshows to allow counties to send people to attend the different roadshows and the different topics that we have. For this roadshow, we've had 600 plus people sign up, and we're doing these not by region. So if you notice that, it's overall. We want all the counties to be together. We want everyone to hear the information. They can ask questions. They can add additional information if they have additional knowledge. Because for some, it is a refresher, and for the newer folks, it is a education. So here's real quickly, in the month of March, we have our governance roadshow. In the month of April, we're going to be doing ticketing. There's some dates already that have been established for April. In May, we're tentatively right now, we have the SDR life cycle. And in June, we're doing the CCTV session. And then beyond that, it is to be determined. I will also say before we move to the next slide that we have these topics that we know we're going to do. And so over the next several months, we'll be doing these. And then at that point, we'll stop to figure out what our upcoming sessions are going to be and the cadence for them. So we think this is a good effort to continue. It may not be monthly, but we want to continue the effort of doing road shows for the counties on different topics. So counties will have an opportunity to give us information on subjects they'd like to hear about, and then we can work to develop a roadshow. So next slide, please. And so, like I said, the next steps, when this was put together, we were the roadshows were coming, but again, the roadshows for the first governance roadshow is scheduled to complete today. We had over 600 participants that signed up for the 3 sessions. Our CRFI for roadshow number 2 went out last week, and we're expecting to get responses by the 25th. And then for future PSC meetings, we'll be providing updates on how it's going and if there's any new things that have come up in our roadshow arena. So with that, Cindy, I'll pass it back to you for questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Peggy. Any comments or questions from the PSC members? And I know I attended it and it seemed to go over really well. Thank you for all the information. And any comments or questions from the public? Okay, great. Then we'll move along now to our state partners updates. And first on the schedule is from OTSI.
Hi, good morning. This is Neha Dhawan from OTSI. I have a couple of quick updates. We've been working with CalSAWS on some documents and contracts. A couple that we recently reviewed and submitted to our federal partners are we worked on the CalSAWS January 2024 as needed IAPDU. This was formally submitted to our federal partners, FNS on February 27th and CMS on March 8th. And we also are reviewing, along with our state partners, CDSS and DHCS, the Accenture Amendment 32. We did a state walkthrough for this document on March 13th. That's it from OTSI. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any updates from CDSS?
Good morning. CDSS has no updates. Thank you.
Okay, and then moving on to DHCS.
Good morning. This is Katie Mead from DHCS. DHCS has no additional updates at this time. Thank you.
Okay, any questions from any of the PSC members? Okay, and any questions from the members of the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll go next to our regional updates. And it looks like we're right on schedule. So I'm going to start with Region 1.
Good morning, everybody. I was trying to figure out if Anna's going to step in, but I'm not sure she's on. So for Sonoma County, they've created a department-wide reporting and data group to work together across programs and divisions to understand CalSAWS reports and data, as well as department-wide CalSAWS operations group, which will facilitate opt-in and opt-out discussions and business processes, which are affected by system changes. Karen Taylor is retiring after 24 years of service in April, and Lisa Barca is retiring after 36 years on April 15th. It changes for them. For Solano County, they're looking into hiring a new class of eligibility workers in the near future. Ongoing monthly communication to staff regarding CalSAWS information in their bureau newsletter. They're continuing to work with lobby management team for kiosk-related issues. They wrapped up their report refactoring project with Gainwell. They've designated staff that are participating in targeted reporting sessions with the CalSAWS project team to address issues and concerns with reporting. You're so popular today, Sean. For San Mateo, with regards to CalSAWS releases, we have implemented our new county business process for managing and collaborating internally on CalSAWS releases, specifically for release 2403. Our kiosk and printers, thank you to everybody who helped us. All our kiosks are now working Thank you again to the lobby management team for their hard work on getting us the devices that were needed and replacements as quickly as possible. State and fiscal reports. Our county is having internal meetings to discuss the reports. We're creating more tickets and service now as we see them, because we've heard that's the way to do it. We continue with our county migration to VoIP for all staff. 2 of our offices have now migrated successfully to replace their desk phones. We will continue this summer with 2 more offices, which includes our contact center staff, as well as other eligibility and employment services staff. We do have a new worker training unit of 25 new eligibility workers started this month. We look forward to seeing them graduate and embark on their eligibility journey, assisting our community. That's it for Region 1.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to Region 2.
Hi, good morning. This is Eduardo for Region 2. Just 3 county updates to provide today. Nevada County is currently working on their kiosk setup. For Sacramento County, they sent out a CalSAWS survey to get a pulse from staff on how they are adapting to CalSAWS. They also launched their first CalSAWS continuous learning on ECCP. And so far, the feedback has been very positive. And also, obviously, like most counties, still continuing our large hiring classes, just completing one of about 75 or so and looking to start one on Monday of about 45 or so human services specialists. And the last update for Sutter County is they are currently recruiting for staff services manager and have started a new induction class as well. And that is all for Region 2. Thank you.
Great. Okay, moving on to Region 3.
Hi, this is Rachel from Region 3. We have several updates for our counties. Butte County is in the development and discovery phase of implementing their Get Next and block intake scheduling. They're hoping to start that pilot in April. They also have just graduated a class of 15 eligibility staff and will have a new class of 5 starting. They are in the queue for the EBT bot rollout. Right now, they're in their change management process with that and also hoping to go live April 1st. They started with the return mail process on March 1st. Del Norte County is hiring a new program manager soon. Glenn County is in the process of hiring for eligibility supervisors, and they have a new HHSA director, Laura Hawkins. Humboldt County has a class of 10 eligibility staff. They are still running at about a 50% vacancy rate in eligibility. Lake County is hiring a new CalFresh analyst soon, and they launched a Medi-Cal only unit processing all their Medi-Cal backlog and are reporting that they are caught up on their Medi-Cal redeterminations. Lassen County also working on hiring and filling vacancies. They just got a kiosk and their lobby management team is configuring that so that they can go live soon with the kiosk. For Mendocino County, we have a CalWorks training class that will be starting next week. We just completed our CalFresh management evaluation last week, which I'm going to categorize as positive. And our director, Becky Emery, has announced her retirement after 26 years, effective March 30th. For Plumas County, they are working on trying to hire at all levels. Shasta County is reporting that they've actually had some good results with their hiring, but they are working on the retention. They also have created an expedited CalFresh unit in order to maximize their CalFresh timeliness. Siskiyou County is doing well with their staffing. They do have an EVES audit coming up this month. They just completed a lobby remodel, also have a new kiosk. Trinity County is cross-training all of their eligibility workers on GAGR, and they're working on a business flow model. They're also are reporting that they have a low vacancy in eligibility. However, they only have 2 eligibility staff who have been there over a year. So they are still working on training. And that is it for Region 3.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I'll do the Region 4 county updates. And so first we have Fresno County. They have approximately 25 county staff who attended a virtual CAPI training provided by CDSS. Attendees consisted of CAPI, GR, and CalWorks staff. And staff are now reporting they have a better understanding of CAPI and were more aware of potential eligibility for CAPI for GR and CalWorks clients. They recently filled some IT positions. They have a new senior BSA, David Mata, senior BSA, John Garcia, and senior ITA, Daniel Perez. And they are working on procuring over 200 additional contact center licenses to serve their call volume needs. In Kern County, we are updating our lobby to what we're providing is a kiosk room so that our customers can go right into this room where we will have several kiosks specifically for document upload. We are waiting on the arrival of our additional kiosks so that we can get that room up and running. And we have several kiosks throughout the lobby already that are just for specific services. We have also submitted our APD to purchase additional call center licenses also in order to better service our customers in the call center. We implemented the EPA IVR line to help our CBOs better provide better services to them through our call center, and that's worked out well so far. We're kind of rolling it out incrementally to our CBOs as capacity allows, and we have had to add additional staff to that line. And we also continue to work on our EBT theft replacement process to replace those compromised cards in order to assist with the EBT theft replacement requests. And that has really made a huge difference in the EBT theft reports to our county. And then moving on to Mariposa County. Mariposa is launching their first kiosk in their main office on February 26th. They have done some testing and trial runs, and it's working out great. And they are just waiting on the completion of their lobby monitor installation. They have 4 ES1-2 vacancies and are recruiting, and have 2 ES3 vacancies and recruiting for that as well. Their CalFresh ME was scheduled in March, and they're working on launching a new e-learning platform called eLumi in March. This will be a tool used to track induction and continuing education modules. They also launched a community information exchange and are working on business processes to link community members with other departments for services. And that was in Mariposa. And then moving on to San Luis Obispo County. Teresa Johnson is their new Participant Services Division Manager for the Higuera office. Nancy Custer is a new Deputy Director for Children's Services. Linda Belch transferred to Deputy Director over their restructured Adult and Homeless Services Division. And they also mentioned they purchased their CalFresh outreach van with ARPA funds, and it will be outfitted with laptops, jetpacks, and eventually an EBT embosser, and will be available for use by the entire department for outreach activities. And that's all the updates for Region 4. So now I'll move on to Region 5.
Hello, I'm Elaine reporting for Region 5. San Bernardino County has seen a significant increase in their authentication and welcome bot success rate. Since the latest release in March, the English authentication bot has increased to the 98.3%, which was also part of the presentation today, and to Spanish to 96.6%. Also, the English bot increased to 78.1% and Spanish to 65.7%. San Diego has been focused on the local assistance centers and FEMA Disaster Recovery Center, and they are taking applications for Disaster CalFresh at the moment. Their Disaster CalFresh application period has been March 7th through March 22nd. As for Ventura, our team has dedicated staff to our strategy around training and staff development. We're currently in the process of hiring our PPOC. We had our current PPOC promote, and we also are working on our mobile unit as well and working on the build out. So That's it for Region 5.
Great, thank you. And then now moving on to Region 6.
Good morning, LaShonda Diggs reporting for Region 6. I have one update. Just want to let everybody know we are in the process of taking steps to redesign our general relief program here in LA County. We're currently in its first phase, which is data collection. So we've been hosting many listening sessions throughout the county. We started with our lived experience individuals, so folks that are currently receiving GR or those that formerly received GR, to get their feedback on what's working, what's not working, what type of enhancements do they believe would be beneficial for the GR program. Then we moved on to our community-based organizations and our legal advocates. So we're in the process of finalizing those listening sessions now. And the next two we have coming up are with our internal eligibility staff, as well as our other county departments that also serve single adults. And we're also looking at a comprehensive assessment of all of our current policies to see where modifications can be made. And that after that, we will go into phase 2, which is convening a countywide work group, and that work group will be charged with helping with the actual plan to redesign the program. So we're excited about this. Our program haven't went under any major modifications in a very long time. This program started around 1901. So we figured it's about time that we look at it to see if it's meeting the results that we hope to get. So more to come on that. So thank you. I'll hand it over to DCFS.
Hi, good morning. This is Olga Vicuña. Our first announcement is that we have added a Human Services Administrator 3. Her name is Vanessa Ayala, and she will be joining our team here at Revenue Enhancement starting next Tuesday. And then our second one, and we just completed our third EW Academy. We went out to the Antelope Valley, so it covered Palmdale, Lancaster, and it was a 10-day academy for those staff. I don't know if you all know our area, but LA County is huge, and to get training to go up there, it was a big accomplishment for us. And then the last one is that we worked to develop a KingGap toolkit that will help streamline the process, provide better information, tools, and a cute little video that we did for our social workers so our EWs can process KingGap timely. So we're excited to start sharing that next week with all our regional partners here in LA County. And that's all my updates. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Sylvia Bañuelos, also with LA County DPSS. And I have 4 updates this morning. The first update has to do with a human resources symposium that the county will be rolling out for all supervisors and managers. These are all new supervisors and managers in the recent years. This is in addition to their ongoing training that managers receive. And it's targeted at, working with them so that they efficiently perform their duties in the area of personnel supervision and management, and also with regard to compliance with personnel policy and procedures. The second item has to do with the continuation of the county's renewal line. So this is an access point that was made available to customers about 1.5 years now. And it's meant to give them an additional way to call in and complete their renewal at their convenience for CalWorks and CalFresh customers. It's also made accessible to Medi-Cal-only customers who need assistance completing their renewal. So we have continued to add staff to this effort, wherever possible. We're currently at about 400 staff. And for the month of February, they completed about 15,000 renewals through the RE line. So we continue to work on that. The third update has to do with SAR-7 processing. So we're looking at doing a deep dive into SAR-7 processing to see how we can streamline the process. And a couple of the things that we're doing, that we're looking at, we're still vetting internally. But for example, system automation, we know that for no change SAR-7s received after the NOAA cutoff, these are not automatically dispositioned by the system, whereas the ones received prior to cutoff are. So we're looking at things of that nature to see, can we make changes so that it ultimately helps us, minimize the workforce that's dedicated to that, that's increasing our processing around SAR-7s. Today, we have many efforts that help us, on our processing, including centralized scanning sites, dedicated we call them change center staff in each of the offices to process them. But again, we're looking at what are the things we can do, including system automation. Another area has to do with creating tasks in the system for SAR-7s received during the restoration period. Today, there isn't a task that is received, so it's kind of manually, the workers have to go in and look for these tasks and, within the reports. The last item that I have has to do with just hiring for the department. There are currently about 16 positions that we're hiring for, ranging from welfare fraud investigator trainee to a senior application developer. The bulletins and promulgation of these lists are expected to be released between March and November of this year. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I think that was all the updates for all the regions. And are there any comments or questions regarding those updates? Any public comment or questions? Okay, I think we have now reached the end of our meeting and our agenda. And so I will get ready to adjourn the meeting and we will see everybody in April.
Thank you, Cindy.
Okay, thanks everyone.